Chapter 535. The group of black-robed men in front of them were extremely fast. They didn't stop at all. Like arrows in the rain, they flew directly towards the patrolling guards of the Chi family. Their goal was very obvious. They wanted to quickly get rid of the patrolling guards around the Chi family, so they had to be fast. Some of them even passed by the tree that Xiaolingyu was on, but they did not notice Xiaolingyu's presence. It was as if the heavens were angry. The wind blew the grass and trees askew, and the heavy rain caused the ground to puddle. There were even bolts of lightning snaking out, temporarily lighting up the ground. Xiaolingyu gently pulled a leaf aside and happened to see a patrolling guard of the Chi family being pierced through the chest by a sharp sword. Then, his body was shredded into pieces. Looks like they're going to be serious. Xiaolingyu's mood also became nervous. Even with the cover of the heavy rain, strong wind, and dark night, the patrolling guards of the Chi family still managed to send out the alarm. The Chi family's courtyard, which was originally as dark as night, was suddenly brightly lit. On the tall and thick courtyard walls, there were many figures. Xiaolingyu also changed into a black outfit and jumped down from the tree. It was not that he was impatient, but that there was a large group of cultivators in neat rows, braving the heavy rain and strong wind, coming through the night. This large group of cultivators did not move very quickly, but they were all wearing heavy and sturdy battle armor. Furthermore, they were clearly filled with killing intent. If it was like this here, it was probably like this on all sides of the Chi family's courtyard. It was fine if the Kong, Wang, and Bai families did not move, but if they did, they would definitely move with the force of a thunderbolt. They would definitely not give the Chi family any chance to escape. If there were no accidents, the Chi family would definitely not be able to withstand the attack of the three families. This time, it was likely that they would not be able to escape. When the nest was overturned, no eggs would be left unharmed. Xiaolingyu had to save Yueru before or after the three families attacked the Chi family. Thus, he also transformed into a black-robed man and rushed into the Chi family's courtyard with the cultivators of the three families at the front. The black-robed men at the front should be the vanguard of the three great clans. They were all heavenly god stage experts. Their goal was to launch a surprise attack and catch the Chi clan off guard. If the Chi clan didn't know that the three great clans dared to make a move and didn't know when the three great clans would attack, this group of black-clothed men would be able to quickly and easily kill their way into the Chi clan's courtyard. The tall walls of the Chi clan's courtyard were nothing to a heavenly god stage cultivator. This was why the Chi clan arranged for a large number of guards to patrol around the courtyard. These black-robed men quickly killed all the patrolling guards of the Chi family. Then, without slowing down, they rushed towards the Chi family's courtyard. The Chi family was indeed a little unprepared. In the face of a surprise attack in the middle of the night, they seemed to be unable to quickly gather their main forces and come up with a good countermeasure. They seemed to be standing on the courtyard walls, constantly attacking the oncoming enemies, but their attacks were a little messy and a little too weak. It was also because they sensed that the Chi family was indeed unprepared that these black-robed men had the confidence to attack. They only had to pay the price of a dozen of their men to force the Chi family members guarding the courtyard walls to retreat. They successfully took over the courtyard walls. Although the courtyard walls looked sturdy, it couldn't withstand the combined attacks of so many heavenly god stage experts. In just a few moments, the courtyard walls collapsed, and a large group of cultivators wearing battle armor rushed into the Chi family's courtyard through this gap. Xiaolingyu also rushed in at this time. The black-robed men were focused on attacking the courtyard walls at first, so they didn't notice that Xiaolingyu was different from them. After entering the Chi residence's main courtyard, Xiaolingyu headed toward Yuru's small courtyard at full speed. Although the Chi family members tried to stop him along the way, he had a body that was like a high-quality divine weapon. He could completely ignore the attacks that the Chi family members threw at him. Therefore, he did not slow down much. No matter how many Chi family members there were in the Chi family's courtyard, they couldn't block every place. What Xiaolingyu didn't expect was that when he finally rushed into Yueru's courtyard, he couldn't find Yueru at all. Seeing that the Chi family's enemies hadn't rushed in yet, Yueru definitely hadn't fallen into the hands of the three great families. The sole imprint that Yueru had left in Xiaolingyu's communication pearl hadn't disappeared, which proved that she hadn't met with any mishap. There was only one possibility: she had been moved away by the Qi family. Xiaolingyu searched around the Qi family's courtyard again. Although he still couldn't find Yueru's shadow, he noticed something strange. Although the Qi family's courtyard seemed to be in chaos, there weren't any non-combatant women or children. All he could see were the Qi family's experts who were dressed neatly and had serious expressions. It seems like the Qi family has already moved their non-combatant members away. Yueru must have been moved to a safe place. Xiaolingyu was relieved. Since Yueru wasn't here, there was no point for him to stay any longer. In order not to get involved in the dispute, Xiaolingyu quickly turned around and rushed out of the Qi family's courtyard. Xiaolingyu was probably just a coincidence. While avoiding a group of Qi family cultivators, he bumped into Qi Hongxian. He could have gone around him, but he couldn't help but go up to him. Qi Hongxian had many Qi family guards around him. When they saw Xiaolingyu rushing over, they waved their weapons together. "Wait!" Qi Hongxian recognized Xiaolingyu and hurriedly shouted at the guards beside him. Xiaolingyu came closer and asked, "Where's Yueru?" Qi Hongxian replied, "Brother Xiao, don't worry. Medicine Master Yueru is now in a very safe place. Brother Qi, you have to be careful when the three great families attack together this time." Xiaolingyu kindly reminded him again. However, Xiaolingyu also felt that the Qi family must have been prepared for this if they dared to not compromise. "Brother Xiao, 4 hours later, you can make a trip to the Wang family. Perhaps you can find what you want." Qi Hongxian seemed to remind Xiaolingyu in a relaxed manner. Xiaolingyu frowned slightly but didn't ask any more questions. He waved his fist in farewell and rushed out of the Qi family's courtyard. It was easier to come than to go back. However, the Qi family's courtyard was completely surrounded. Rows of well-equipped cultivators with weapons surrounded the Qi family's courtyard like an iron bucket. This iron bucket couldn't stop Xiaolingyu. He first sped up and then suddenly jumped high into the air, flying out of the encirclement. The cultivators who formed the iron barrel formation would naturally attack him. Crossbows shot up from the ground. Most of them brushed past him, but a small number of them hit his body. However, although these arrows could injure heavenly gods, they couldn't penetrate his body. In the past, these arrows could make him feel a slight pain, but now he didn't feel anything at all. After landing outside the encirclement, Xiaolingyu still sped up. After shaking off the people who came to kill him, he circled back to a place not far from the Qi family's courtyard and observed the situation there. "Qi Hongxian asked me to go to the Wang family after 2 hours. Does it mean that the Qi family has full confidence in resisting the joint attack of the three major families?" Xiaolingyu thought silently after hiding his figure. Not long after he rushed out of the Qi family's courtyard, the cultivators of the three great families surrounding the Qi family's courtyard shouted and attacked the Qi family's courtyard together after a colorful firework exploded in the air. The wind was still blowing and the rain was still pouring down. The thunder in the sky above the realm of the gods made it difficult for the battle cries in the Qi family's courtyard to travel too far. The other parts of the city were very quiet, but the smell of blood had already begun to spread in all directions with the wind. In less than 10 minutes, Xiaolingyu had already discovered that the rainwater under his feet had turned into blood. The four great families were fighting here, and there were more than 10,000 people involved. It was indeed a scene of blood flowing like a river. However, with the three great clans joining forces to attack the Qi clan, the battle should have ended very quickly. After all, with the three great clans joining forces, their overall strength was definitely much higher than the Qi clans. What should have been a one-sided massacre was actually still ongoing after an hour. It seems like the Qi family is well prepared. I think the Qi family of Du City has sent many experts to support them. Xiaolingyu thought as he continued to observe. After 2 hours, the battle was still going on. Furthermore, Xiaolingyu saw that many of the cultivators who were originally charging towards the Qi family's courtyard had already started to flee. He guessed that the Qi family would not be defeated this time, and the three great families' joint operation would end in failure. He stopped observing and followed Qi Hongshuan's instructions to head towards the Wang family's courtyard. Along the way, he thought that even if the Wang family really had the Lotus of Creation, it would definitely be in the hands of the Wang family's experts. Furthermore, the Wang family's experts should be fighting in the Qi family's courtyard right now. Even if the Wang family's experts who had the Lotus of Creation were still in the Wang family's courtyard, it would be difficult for him to snatch anything from them. Why did Qi Hongxian want him to go to the Wang family's courtyard? There were many things that he did not understand, but he still felt that he should make a trip to the Wang family's courtyard. The three great families must have turned out in full force in order to finish off the Qi family in one fell swoop. Even if the defense of the Qi family's courtyard was not empty, it would definitely not be as tight as usual. This was an excellent opportunity for Xiaoling Yu to infiltrate the Wang family's courtyard. After an hour, Xiaoling Yu finally arrived near the Wang family's courtyard. Although he was a little anxious, he still continued to wait because there was still an hour left before the 4-hour deadline. Seeing that the 1-hour deadline was almost up, Xiaoling Yu was about to take action when he discovered a group of Wang family members in a sorry state running back in panic like stray dogs. Then, one after another, Wang family cultivators rushed back in the heavy rain. At the same time, more and more Wang family members rushed out of the Wang family's courtyard. Chapter 536. No matter what, the Wang family had obviously given up on the family compound and were preparing to escape. If Xiaoling Yu waited any longer, he might miss this golden opportunity. He did not hesitate any longer and immediately rushed towards the Qi family compound. Just as he rushed to a side door of the Wang family's courtyard, a group of Wang family members suddenly rushed out from the side door. Among them, there were a few whose clothes were clearly different from the others. One of them was a middle-aged woman, one of them was a young man, and there were also 2 maids. The rest were all muscular men with sharp blades in their hands. It was obvious that the woman and the young man were not ordinary members of the Wang family. The young man was only an early-stage heavenly god, while the woman was an expert close to the late-stage heavenly god. The Wang family was also a rather large family. There must be many young masters in the Wang family. This should only be one of them. Xiaoling Yu was not sure if the Lily of Creation was with this pair of mother and son. It doesn't matter if they have it or not. I'll capture them first. Even if they don't have it, I won't be able to get it out of them. At least I can use them to threaten the Wang family. Thinking up to this point, Xiaoling Yu made his move. In order to be safe, he even invited the foodie to come out. In the process of advancing, he also took out the divine artifact, the yin-yang mirror. 4 illusory monsters rapidly rushed into the group of people. The group of people had not seen Xiaoling Yu's moves before, and they did not know what the 4 illusory monsters were. They were originally escaping in a panic, and like birds startled by the twang of a bow, they naturally retreated a few steps when they encountered a sudden change. Then, they poured all the attacks they had prepared onto the 4 illusory monsters. The 4 illusory monsters were hit repeatedly, but they were not injured at all. However, their attacks instantly sent the 4 burly men flying. At this moment, Xiaoling Yu and the foodie had already closed in. The 4 illusory monsters and the foodie's attack caused the enemy to be unable to maintain their formation. Instantly, it became a mess. The Wang family guards who were already afraid even chose to flee at this moment. The only ones who could still stand together now were the mother and son. Who are you? Why are you attacking my Wang family members? The woman asked loudly. I only want one thing. If Madam is willing to hand it over, I will leave immediately. Xiaoling Yu slowly approached as he spoke. What is it? The woman asked. The Lily of Creation, Xiaoling Yu replied calmly. Foodie and the 4 monsters surrounded Xiaoling Yu, helping him block the attacks from the Wang family's guards. The woman frowned slightly and said with certainty, the Wang family does have a Lily of Creation, but it's not with us. It's with the eldest young master of the Wang family. How do I know if you're telling the truth? Xiaoling Yu looked doubtful. I can swear on my soul. The woman said. If you swear on your soul and tell me the whereabouts of young Master Wang, I can promise to let you go, Xiaolingyu said as she stroked her chin. The woman was very cooperative. She immediately swore an oath and told Xiaolingyu that young Master Wang had left through the back door 15 minutes ago. She even showed young Master Wang's image to Xiaolingyu so that he could identify him. The oath didn't backfire, which proved that the woman was telling the truth. Since they didn't have the Lily of Creation, and Xiaolingyu had no enmity with them, he didn't mind letting them go. He immediately rode Fudi to the back door of the Wang family. The reason why the woman was so cooperative was probably because she didn't have a good relationship with young Master Wang. In any case, when a family was big, even if they had the same surname, there would be open and covert fighting. There were too many such things, and Xiaolingyu couldn't be bothered to think about it. Young Master Wang naturally wouldn't wait for Xiaolingyu at the back door of the Wang family courtyard. After Xiaolingyu arrived at the back door, he began to walk towards the city gate. If the three great clans failed, the city would no longer be safe for them. If they wanted to escape, they would definitely think of leaving the city first. Xiaolingyu chased all the way to the city gate, but he didn't see young Master Wang. Instead, he found that the city gate was tightly shut and there were city guards standing guard. This made Xiaolingyu a little puzzled. Qin City's jurisdiction was now in the hands of the Bai family, and the Bai family had also made a move against the Qi family. The three great clans' defeat was already certain, but the Qi family's city guards didn't open the city gate to let the three great clans escape. Instead, they closed the city gate tightly. This was a little puzzling. The city wall was very tall. When Xiaolingyu first arrived at Qin City, he found that he couldn't even jump over it with all his strength. Moreover, there were many restrictions and array formations on the city wall. After many years of careful installation, the four great clans definitely wouldn't allow cultivators to enter Qin City without going through the city gate. Young Master Wang wasn't a divine monarch expert, so he couldn't jump over the city wall. If he wasn't dead, then he was definitely still in the city. Looking at the city guards standing guard at the city gate, Xiaolingyu turned around and walked into the city. Qin City was too big. It was easy to hide a person, but it was too difficult for Xiaolingyu to find young Master Wang by himself. However, Qi Hongshuan's reminder was not a lie. It was also useful. If Xiaolingyu had not observed the Qi family for a while, he would have left the Qi family and come to the Wang family. Then, it would have been difficult for the young master of the Wang family to escape. The battle should have been over, but Qin City was very turbulent. Cultivators wearing bright armor could be seen everywhere, and there were also cultivators running around in panic. What made Xiaolingyu even more puzzled was that the Bai family's city guards were actually working together with the Qi family's city guards to kill the Kong and Wang family's people. After observing for a while, he finally understood that the Bai family had actually joined forces with the Qi family. Before this battle broke out, the Bai family had always been acting with the Kong and Wang families. When the battle really broke out, the Bai family suddenly turned around and helped the Qi family deal with the Kong and Wang families, who were caught off guard, causing the situation to become like this. No wonder the Qi family didn't compromise. They had already planned this. The Wang family's main business was their financial strength, but their martial strength wasn't much. Although the Kong family's martial strength was first, their trump card, the Raging Flame Group, had suffered heavy losses. Moreover, when Xiaolingyu was in seclusion in the forest, Qi Hongrui and Qi Hongqing cooperated with the Qi family's experts to effectively kill the Kong family's experts. This was one of the reasons why the Kong family was so anxious to attack the Qi family. The Kong and Wang clans had never expected that the Bai clan, who had been so confident before the battle, would actually turn around and help the Qi clan. It was precisely because the Bai clan had suddenly made a move against them that the Kong and Wang clans had been caught off guard, causing the Kong and Wang clans to suffer such a huge blow. It was only because of this that the Qi and Bai clans, who had long been prepared, were able to stabilize themselves and launch a counterattack. In short, the Kong and Wang clans had lost, and the best choice for them now was to take the future of their clans and all the treasures their clans had collected over the years out of the city. However, with the Bai family controlling the city's defenses, the Kong and Wang families were left with only a few scattered soldiers. Under the pursuit of the Qi and Bai families, it was impossible for them to gather together and attack the city gates. Wanting to break out was harder than ascending to the heavens. As for the divine lord powerhouses of the four great families, ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to see them. However, from the four bright lights in the sky above Kun City, as well as the thunderous sounds of battle, it was easy to guess that the four divine lord powerhouses were still fighting in the night sky against the strong winds and heavy rain. The four families each had a divine monarch expert. This was the main reason why they were able to become one of the four great families of Kun City. Without a divine monarch expert, how could they become one of the four great families of Kun City? In truth, only the results of a battle between divine lord masters could affect the overall situation. In the current battle within the city, the Qi and Bai families had won. But, if their divine lord masters were defeated, then the Kong and Wang families would have a chance to make a comeback. Perhaps because they were waiting for their divine monarch experts to win, the Kong and Wang families were only temporarily hiding in the city and weren't in a hurry to attack the city gates. Xiao Lingyu searched the streets of Kun City for the Wang family's young master. Naturally, he was stopped by the cultivators of the Qi and Bai families. However, his speed was fast and his body's defense was high. If one wasn't a divine monarch expert, they wouldn't be able to injure him. He ran through the streets without any fear. Until dawn, Xiao Lingyu still hadn't found the Wang family's young master. Kun City was still in a state of chaos. Killing could be seen everywhere. However, the rain had stopped and the wind and thunder had disappeared. It was as if the rain was specifically used to wash away the blood and the wind was used to blow away the smell of blood. Xiao Lingyu walked around Kun City. The Kong and Wang families' courtyards had been razed to the ground. None of the residents and shops dared to open their doors. There were only gusts of cold wind on the streets, as well as groups of Bai family's city guards and Qi family's guards. Although the shops and residents weren't willing to open their doors, when the cultivators of the Qi and Bai families knocked on their doors and demanded a search, they had no choice but to cooperate. Xiao Lingyu wasn't a member of the Qi and Bai families. However, he could move freely because no one could stop him. Xiao Lingyu went straight to the Qi clan's courtyard and soon found Qi Hongxian. Qi Hongxian was waiting for him. "Brother Xiao, how did it go?" Qi Hongxian wasn't surprised that Xiao Lingyu could appear in front of him. Instead, he asked with a smile. "It didn't go well. Is Yuru all right?" Xiao Lingyu shook his head and asked. "She's fine. She didn't even get scared." Qi Hongxian replied casually. "What's the result of the battle above?" Xiao Lingyu asked as he pointed to the sky. Qi Hongxian knew that Xiao Lingyu was asking about the battle between the divine monarchs. He said casually, "One dead and one heavily injured." Looking at Qi Hongxian's expression, it was obvious that the casualties weren't from the Qi and Bai families. "Then I'll have to congratulate Brother Qi." Xiao Lingyu pretended to congratulate him. "Then," he said, "I have a presumptuous request." Chapter 537. The Wang clan's young master has something that I need. If the Qi clan manages to capture the Wang clan's young master, can they give it to me? "Of course, I won't take it for free," Xiao Lingyu said. "That will depend on the elders of the Qi clan. However, Hongxian will definitely help Brother Xiao with this matter." Qi Hongxian replied sincerely. "Then I will thank Brother Qi in advance." Xiao Lingyu cupped his fists. At present, the city is still not peaceful. The city gates are all closed. It will be inconvenient for Brother Xiao to walk around the city. "I have a token here. Brother Xiao, take it. Once you see this token, at least the people of the Qi and Bai families won't cause you any trouble," Qi Hongxian said as he handed over a seemingly ordinary silver-white token to Xiao Lingyu. Xiao Lingyu did not stand on ceremony and took the token. He thanked Qi Hongxian again and left. Although he had asked the Qi clan for help, it would be better if he could find the Wang clan's young master in advance. Of the Kong and Wang clan's divine monarch experts, one was dead and the other was seriously injured. The two clans had no chance of turning the situation around. They had to escape from Kun City as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the Kong and Wang clans had already missed the best opportunity to attack the city gate. Previously, when the four clans had just started fighting, the Qi and Bai clans' defense of the city gate was not very strong. At that time, if the Kong and Wang clans had joined forces to attack the city gate, they should have been able to escape. Now that the Qi and Bai clans had stabilized their footing, they had sent a large number of guards to guard the city gates. There was also a large number of guards searching the city. The Kong and Wang clans' cultivators were having a hard time regrouping, let alone attacking the city gates. The other members of the Kong and Wang clans were like turtles in a jar. Although Kun City was very large, the Qi and Bai clans could still search through the entire city. Although the cultivators could easily change their appearance, the cultivators of the Qi and Bai clans who were in charge of searching could still see through their disguises. For 3 months, Kun City remained under martial law. The cultivators from the Qi clan and Bai clan searched the streets and alleys, going from house to house. One by one, cultivators from the Kong clan and Wang clan were found. Some surrendered while others were killed after resisting. After all, Xiaoling Yu was alone, and he could not search the residences or shops of Kun City's residents or merchants. It was very difficult for him to find someone, so he could only try his luck. Just after 3 months, Xiaoling Yu suddenly received a message from Qi Hongxian, saying that the eldest young master of the Wang family had been captured and was now in a cell in the Qi family's courtyard. After receiving the news, Xiaoling Yu was excited at first. However, he did not go directly to the Qi family's courtyard. Instead, he sent a message and asked, "Is the Lily of Fate in his hands?" Qi Hongxian replied, "It was there before, but now it's in my big brother Qi Hongli's storage ring." Xiaoling Yu asked again, "Then, Brother Qi, can you discuss with your big brother to give the Lily of Fate to me?" Qi Hongxian replied, "I've asked my big brother before, but he didn't agree. He was also injured in the battle this time. He said he wants to use the Lily of Fate to stabilize his nascent soul and nascent soul." Xiaoling Yu said, "There are many ways to stabilize the nascent soul and nascent soul. As long as the nascent soul and nascent soul don't show any signs of collapsing, you don't have to use the Lily of Fate." Qi Hongxian replied helplessly, "I know that. My big brother Qi Hongli knows that too. I've begged him before, but he refused. He's my big brother and is deeply trusted by my father. There's nothing I can do. I'm sorry, Brother Xiao. I'm afraid I can't help you with this." As the eldest young master of the Qi family, Qi Hongli definitely did not lack divine stones or cultivation materials. It was basically impossible to buy the Lily of Fate from him. The Lily of Fate was indeed very effective in stabilizing and nourishing a cultivator's nascent soul and nascent soul. If Qi Hongli's nascent soul and nascent soul were really injured, the Lily of Fate would naturally be the best choice to heal them. "Can you ask your big brother to come out? Let's find a place to talk." Xiaoling Yu sent a message after thinking for a moment. "I'll go ask him," Qi Hongxian replied after thinking for a moment. After waiting for 4 hours, Qi Hongxian sent another message, saying that his big brother had agreed to meet Xiaoling Yu. The location was set at Qi Hongshuan's restaurant. 3 days later, Xiaoling Yu arrived as promised. Due to the ongoing turmoil in Kun City, the restaurant had no business at all. The entire first floor was currently only occupied by Xiaoling Yu and Qi Hongxian. "My big brother has a very stubborn temper. He's also very headstrong. Brother Xiao, please be careful when you speak later," Qi Hongxian reminded. Xiaoling Yu had just nodded to indicate that he understood when a cultivator who looked somewhat similar to Qi Hongxian walked into the restaurant with 2 strong men. "Third brother, this is Brother Xiao who is interested in the Lily of Fate, right?" Qi Hongli sat down calmly and asked. The 2 strong men were right behind Qi Hongli. They were silent, but they stared at Xiaoling Yu cautiously. From the aura that faintly seeped out from their bodies, it could be seen that they were experts close to the late heavenly god stage. Chi Hongli's cultivation was also at the peak of the middle heavenly god stage. He was only half a step away from the late heavenly god stage. I'm Shaolin Yu. Greetings, first young master. Shaolin Yu stood up and bowed politely with his fists clasped. Have a seat. Chi Hongli nodded calmly in return. Brother Shao, please have a seat. I'll order someone to prepare some wine and dishes, Chi Hongxian said with a smile and left the table. To be honest, I won't easily transfer the Lily of Fate. If it weren't for third brother's repeated pleading, I wouldn't have come here, Chi Hongli said directly. The Lily of Fate is very important to me. If first young master has any conditions, just tell me. I won't refuse as long as it's within my means, Shaolin Yu said sincerely. It's better if you say it yourself. If you can really tempt me, I'll give third brother face and transfer the Lily of Fate to you. Chi Hongli shook his head. Shaolin Yu thought for a moment and placed a storage bag on the table, saying, First young master, take a look at the things inside. Chi Hongli sank his divine sense into the storage bag with disinterest. Then, his expression changed slightly, saying, The body of a divine monarch monster? Shaolin Yu nodded and said, I believe that this divine monarch monster's body is more useful to first young master than the Lily of Fate. Chi Hongli then smiled. What Shaolin Yu did not expect was that he actually put away the storage bag and said, It would be impolite to refuse your gift. I'll accept it. But after accepting the storage bag, Chi Hongli did not intend to take out the Lily of Fate. What about the Lily of Fate? Shaolin Yu asked. It's on me, Chi Hongli said. Shaolin Yu snorted coldly and said, Could it be that first young master wants to take my things for free? Chi Hongli said to a burly guard behind him, Get some divine stones for this brother. We can't take other people's things for free. Yes, first young master. The guard responded and threw a storage bag in front of Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu sank his divine sense into it and looked even more unsightly. There were less than 10,000 mid-grade divine stones in the storage bag. First young master, you're losing your reputation and demeanor by doing this. Shaolin Yu narrowed his eyes and said. I'm really lucky to be able to make a deal with Brother Shao today. Brother Shao, please enjoy your wine here. I won't disturb you. Chi Hongli immediately got up and walked out of the restaurant with the two guards. Wait. Shaolin Yu slammed the table and said angrily, Do you really think that I'm easy to bully? Chi Hongli didn't turn around. Instead, he waved his hand behind him and said, Kun City already belongs to my Chi clan. Everything in Kun City belongs to my Chi clan, including the things on you. You don't have the right to negotiate with me. Shaolin Yu didn't expect this outcome. He also didn't expect Chi Hongli to be such a greedy person. At this moment, he couldn't suppress his anger. After a cold laugh, the silver moon broken blade appeared in his hand and he rushed forward quickly. Chi Hongli did not expect that Shaolin Yu would dare to make a move on him here. When he heard a strong aura coming from behind him, and a strong killing intent locking onto him, he felt a chill in his heart. He quickly rushed forward for a distance, while his two guards were more loyal. Not only did they not dodge, they turned around at the same time and swept their swords at Shaolin Yu. The furious Shaolin Yu didn't know how to dodge this kind of attack at all. He allowed the two sharp swords to sweep his two arms, but he directly rushed over, wanting to quickly get close to Chi Hongli and capture him. But just as he was about to charge forward, Chi Hongxian suddenly appeared and pulled him back. Brother Shao, calm down. Chi Hongxian shouted at Shaolin Yu. What made Shaolin Yu feel strange was that he was very strong. Ordinary heavenly god stage cultivators, even late heavenly god stage experts, would find it hard to stop him when he was rushing forward. It was a little surprising that Chi Hongxian could stop him. Calm down? If this happened to you, would you be able to calm down? Shaolin Yu asked coldly. This? What happened? Chi Hongxian pretended to be confused. What happened? Humph. Third brother, can't you see that your so-called friend wanted to attack your big brother just now? I didn't want to give him the Lily of Fortune, so he wanted to attack me. He really doesn't take our Chi clan seriously. Chi Hongli said with a cold smile. What a good villain. Xiaoling Yu said with disdain. Brother Xiao, if you have something to say, we can talk it out. Try to avoid violence. The situation in Qin City is special. Brother Xiao, please think twice before you act. Qi Hongxian advised. The situation in Qin City is special. It's special because it's controlled by your Qi clan. Do you think he can take my things for free just because of this? Xiaoling Yu asked with a smile. This? Qi Hongxian was a little speechless. Xiaoling Yu took the opportunity to shake off Qi Hongshuan's arm and rushed toward Qi Hongli again. Qi Hongli's 2 guards stood beside him again. When they saw Xiaoling Yu rushing toward him again, they directly blocked Qi Hongli behind them. Chapter 538. If the 2 guards who followed Qi Hongli had dodged, Xiaoling Yu would not have been able to hit them easily. However, they were too loyal. In order to protect Qi Hongli, they could only firmly block Xiaoling Yu's path. The silver moon broken blade was extremely sharp. Naturally, the necks of the 2 guards could not withstand it. After a cold light flashed, their heads flew high into the air. Blood immediately spurted out from their throats. Xiaoling Yu passed through them and killed Qi Hongli. Qi Hongli, on the other hand, had already seen how powerful Xiaoling Yu was. His 2 bodyguards had bought him some time to escape. Now, he was already 300 meters away. As he fled, he shouted for the Qi clan members on the street to come and protect him. The dignified young master of the Qi family was in such a sorry state. Perhaps it was because the Qi family's property needed to be protected here, but there were quite a few Qi family members in the vicinity of the restaurant. Before Xiaoling Yu could catch up with Qi Hongli, there were already more than a dozen Qi family members rushing over and pointing their swords at him. After killing 2 Qi family members, Xiaoling Yu did not care about killing a few more. He was really angry. This was the first time he had been bullied like this. Facing the encirclement of more than 10 people from the Qi family, Xiaoling Yu did not retreat, nor did he go around them. Instead, he rushed forward. When he came into contact with more than 10 people from the Qi family, he quickly waved his silver moon broken blade and killed the 2 people in front of him before he rushed forward. At this time, many Qi family experts came out of the restaurant. They were about to rush out but were stopped by Qi Hongxian, who spread his arms. His elder brother was being chased by experts, but Qi Hongshuan's expression was very calm. There was even an undetectable smirk at the corner of his mouth. Although Qin City belonged to the Qi and Bai family, and the Qi and Bai family guards could be seen everywhere in the streets and alleys, Xiaoling Yu could not take this lying down. He continued to chase after Qi Hongli, the young master of the Qi family, under the obstruction of many cultivators. Although Qi Hongli's cultivation was at the peak of the mid-stage heaven god stage, he had not recovered from his injuries and was not in peak condition. It was difficult for him to pull away from Xiaoling Yu because the guards could not stop Xiaoling Yu. Although Xiaoling Yu was burning with anger, he did not lose his mind. He knew that he had to catch up to Qi Hongli as soon as possible. The longer he delayed, the worse it would be for him. He had already gone crazy. There was no way for Qi Hongli to give up. Xiaoling Yu could only capture or kill him. To get the Lily of Fortune. If he delayed too long, not only would more and more Qi family members come to help, but he might also attract the attention of the Qi family's divine monarch experts. Xiaoling Yu was already forced to this point. He had no other choice. Even if he angered the divine monarch experts, he had to take the risk. As long as he got the Lily of Fortune, he could find a place to hide in the city. The divine monarch experts of the Qi family might not be able to find him. Qi Hongli was still running in the city. At the same time, he shouted for the Qi family members to come and protect him. His route was naturally towards the Qi family's courtyard. In order to catch up to Qi Hongli as soon as possible, Xiaoling Yu asked Fudi to come along. Fudi was not only faster, but his charging ability was also very strong. He was also not afraid of ordinary cultivators' sword and saber attacks. With Fudi's help, Xiaoling Yu quickly caught up to Qi Hongli. He jumped off Fudi's back and landed beside Qi Hongli. To be on the safe side, Xiaoling Yu summoned the 4 shadow monsters and had them work together with Fudi to guard the surroundings. The battle was without suspense. Qi Hongli, who was injured, was no match for Xiaoling Yu. Moreover, Qi Hongli seemed to be frightened. He did not resist at all and was captured by Xiaoling Yu. "Hand over the Lily of Fortune and I can spare your life," Xiaoling Yu said coldly. Qi Hongli had just seen Xiaoling Yu kill people like cutting vegetables. He was not sure if Xiaoling Yu would be afraid of his identity as the young master of the Qi family. Therefore, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. However, he glanced to the side and saw 2 familiar figures rushing towards him. He replied firmly, "If you dare to touch me, you won't live either." Given the current situation in Quin City, Qi Hongli was not exaggerating at all when he said that. Moreover, there were many people watching. Qi Hongli had already embarrassed the Qi family by being captured like this. If he cooperated with Xiaoling Yu, he would never have the chance to raise his head in the Qi family again. "Then you have a death wish." Xiaoling Yu tightened his grip on Qi Hongli's neck and broke his neck. Then, he took the storage ring off Qi Hongli's finger. Just as Xiaoling Yu was about to leave, 2 sword radiances bypassed the defenses of the 4 monsters and Fudi and accurately hit his back. The sword radiances did not hurt Xiaoling Yu, nor did they break through his defenses. However, they caused him to stagger forward. When he steadied himself again, the 2 swords were already stabbing towards him. However, the 2 swords suddenly stopped just as they were about to hit him. "Benefactor? Why are you here?" Qi Hongrui asked in surprise. The 2 people who came were Qi Hongrui and Qi Hongqing. Before they attacked, they felt that the background was very familiar. However, at that time, Xiaoling Yu was about to kill Qi Hongli, so they could only save him first. Unfortunately, they were unable to save Qi Hongli's life. It was also because Qi Hongrui and Qi Hongqing were in the late stage of the Heavenly God stage that they were able to bypass the defenses of the 4 monsters and Fudi and hit Xiaoling Yu with their sword radiances. The appearance of these 2 people put Xiaoling Yu in a difficult position. In fact, it was very difficult for the 4 monsters and Fudi to threaten the late-stage Heavenly God stage cultivators. Although they could not threaten Xiaoling Yu, they could hold Xiaoling Yu back. Once Xiaoling Yu was held back and could not escape quickly, he would definitely be surrounded by the Qi family's cultivators. However, the fact that they had called him their benefactor made Xiaoling Yu feel much more relieved. He said softly, "If I leave, will you stop me?" Qi Hongqing and Qi Hongrui were in a difficult position. They did not know how to choose. If there was no one watching them, perhaps it would be easier for them to choose. Xiaoling Yu also knew that they were in a difficult position. However, since they were hesitating, he felt much more at ease. With a thought, the 4 monsters all rushed toward Qi Hongqing and Qi Hongrui. Qi Hongxian was more perceptive and knew how to do things. At this moment, he shouted, "Everyone, attack together and kill this person here." This shout seemed to prove their position, but the 2 of them all swung their swords to attack the 4 monsters, leaving Xiaoling Yu to the rest of the Qi family. Xiaoling Yu, on the other hand, rushed onto Fudi's back and ordered it to kill at full speed. "Stop him!" Qi Hongxian seemed to anxiously shout again. However, he waited until Fudi had rushed out for about 300 meters before he jumped up and chased after him with his sword. At this moment, Xiaoling Yu turned around and hit Qi Hongxian with a primal chaos seal. Qi Hongxian seemed to want to dodge the primal chaos seal, so he immediately stopped chasing and dodged to the side. The Qi family's cultivators did not block off the area. After Fudi broke through the first wall, he was already far ahead. Fudi gradually increased his speed, and the cultivators along the way could only avoid him. Otherwise, there was a possibility that they would be knocked to death. Moreover, it was difficult for their attacks to land on Fudi, who was moving at full speed. After running for some distance, Xiaoling Yu put Fudi back into his spirit beast pouch and then went into a remote alley. Xiaoling Yu had stayed in Quin City for quite some time, so he was familiar with the layout of the city and the layout of the streets. After a few turns, he managed to shake off the Qi clan members who were chasing after him. However, Xiaolingyu knew that the Qi family would not let him off so easily. Soon, they would search the entire city for him. The entire city belonged to the Qi and Bai families, so he would not be safe no matter where he hid. The eldest young master of the Wang family knew Qin City better. Furthermore, the Wang family had been in Qin City for many years. They must have many secret places. Even so, the eldest young master of the Wang family was found. Xiaolingyu couldn't possibly hide forever. It is not wise to hide. It is best to leave the city. Xiaolingyu thought of this and walked towards the city wall. If I leave, will they use Yueru to threaten me? Xiaolingyu pondered this question as he walked towards the city wall. However, it was more important for him to protect himself. If his own safety was a problem, why should he worry about the safety of others? If the Qi family really used Yueru to threaten him, he would not only put himself in danger, but he would also not be able to save Yueru. If they used Yueru to threaten him, the Qi family would treat Yueru as an outsider. They would not be lenient. Xiaolingyu quickly slipped to the bottom of one of the city walls. Looking at the tall city wall, he took a deep breath and ran towards it. Just as he was about to crash into the city wall, Xiaolingyu suddenly jumped up and reached the waist of the city wall. He tapped the wall with the tip of his foot and continued to fly upwards. As soon as he reached the top of the city wall, he felt a huge force from the restrictive spell surging towards Xiaolingyu. If an ordinary heavenly god cultivator rushed here, he would definitely be pushed down by the force. However, Xiaolingyu stabbed the city wall with his silver moon-broken saber to resist the force of the restrictive spell. When he reached the top of the city wall, dozens of restrictive spells attacked him before he could even stabilize himself. Even if these restrictive spells were not enough to kill a heavenly god cultivator, they were enough to send a late-stage heavenly god flying far away. Moreover, ordinary heavenly gods would definitely choose to retreat at this moment. They would not dare to take these attacks head-on. Facing the dozens of restrictive lights, Xiaolingyu let out a loud shout. He leaned forward and braced himself to rush over. The restrictive spells hit Xiaolingyu. Although they did not cause any harm, they almost knocked Xiaolingyu down. A moment later, dozens of restrictive spells attacked him again. Xiaolingyu used the eight-legged Tai Chi cauldron to block them. Chapter 539. No matter how many guards the Qi and Bai families had, it was impossible for them to guard both inside and outside the city walls. Their main focus now was on searching the city. There was almost no one outside the city. After landing outside the city, Xiaolingyu kept the divine weapon and asked Fudi to come out. Then, he ran at full speed with his back facing the city walls. Without the restriction of the city walls, it was almost impossible for the Qi family to find Xiaolingyu again. To be safe, Xiaolingyu asked Fudi to run through the forest first. Of course, he did not take the path from the back gate of Qin City to the home of hunters. After reaching the forest, he asked Fudi to return to the spiritual beast pouch. Then, he wandered around the forest alone for a few days. After making sure that there was no one following him, he continued to move forward. He went deep into the area occupied by the late heavenly god demonic beasts. Like before, he found a cave with a ferocious beast at the waist of the cliff. After killing the beast inside, Xiaolingyu took the cave for himself. He blocked the entrance of the cave for more than 200 feet. Then, he waved his silver moon-broken sword and made the cave deeper and deeper. Only one person could pass through at a time. After a few thousand feet, Xiaolingyu finally stopped. Regardless of whether the Qi family would continue to hunt him down, in order to have more means to protect himself in the realm of the gods, in order to be able to find his family and friends in the future, in order to fulfill his chief master's dying wish, Xiaolingyu had to increase his strength. There was nothing to hesitate about. He stopped in the cave, took out the eight-legged Tai Chi cauldron and entered it. This time, he absolutely could not be disturbed during his cultivation. Although the cave was very long and hidden, it was not an absolutely safe place. Only by hiding inside a saint artifact could Xiaolingyu truly calm down and focus on his cultivation. After all, when he attempted to break through to the sixth cycle, there would definitely be quite a commotion. This cave might not be able to hide everything. The eight-legged Tai Chi cauldron quietly landed on the rocks in the cave. It did not move at all and did not emit any aura. It was just like a strange-looking cauldron. Shaolin Yu hid in the eight-legged Tai Chi cauldron and meditated quietly to adjust his state of mind. A few days later, he had another full meal. When his condition reached its peak, he prepared to break through to the sixth revolution. However, before the attack, Shaolin Yu tossed the 2 pieces of Divine Monarch Stage Demonic Beast's flesh into the foodie's spiritual beast pouch. He estimated that his cultivation this time would not be too short. Instead of letting the foodie sleep and wait in the spirit beast bag, it was better to let it cultivate at the same time. The foodie naturally wouldn't be polite. Although these 2 pieces of Divine Monarch Stage Demonic Beast flesh were very large, it still swallowed them all into its stomach in the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Then, as Shaolin Yu expected, it fell into a deep sleep. The foodie's deep sleep was the most effective way to cultivate, and there would not be any problems. Shaolin Yu was very envious of this, but she could only be envious. Shaolin Yu waited until the foodie's condition stabilized before she could focus on her own cultivation. Shaolin Yu had been in the chaotic soul formation stage for a long time, and he was already at the point of breaking through to the sixth revolution. He was now fully prepared, but he knew that the success rate this time was still very low. Every revolution of the 9-revolution chaos formula was very difficult to break through, but Shaolin Yu had passed through the 5th revolution without any mishaps. He believed that he would be able to pass through the 6th revolution smoothly. First, he used the chaotic primordial fire to process the various materials. This step alone took nearly 100 years to complete. The reason why it took so much time was that Shaolin Yu couldn't finish it in one go. Every 10 days to half a month, he had to eat once to ensure that his condition didn't deteriorate. However, after such a long time, there were no abnormalities outside, which made Shaolin Yu feel more at ease. The foodie was still in a deep sleep, and it seemed like it wouldn't wake up in a short time. After processing the materials, piles of divine stones appeared in the 8-legged Tai Chi cauldron. They surrounded Shaolin Yu's body and emitted a fluorescent light. The interior of the 8-legged Tai Chi cauldron was very spacious. At least, Shaolin Yu took out all of his divine stones and it still didn't feel crowded. Once the divine stones were ready, he either smeared the processed materials all over his body or consumed them directly. After taking a deep breath, Shaolin Yu opened his arms. A suction force appeared from his palms, acting on the divine stones and sucking the divine energy contained in them into his palms. The divine energy flowed through the veins in Shaolin Yu's arms and into Shaolin Yu's body. After a huge cycle, it fell into his dantian and gathered around the chaotic divine infant. The chaotic divine infant was already using the 9-revolution chaos formula. Its 2 small hands were constantly forming seals, and waves of chaotic energy surged out, pulling the divine energy to form an energy vortex that was constantly spinning faster and faster. As the quality of his body had improved, Shaolin Yu's body and veins could contain more energy. The impact of the divine energy entering his body didn't affect him at all. However, the most dangerous moment was gradually approaching. Another 100 years passed before Shaolin Yu absorbed enough divine energy. In truth, absorbing the divine energy did not take that long. The main thing was that he still needed to refine and convert it with chaotic energy after absorbing it. The dangerous moment had finally arrived. When enough chaotic energy gathered around the chaotic divine infant, it madly poured into the chaotic divine infant. The chaotic divine infant at the soul formation stage could not withstand so much chaotic energy at all, and it directly exploded. The explosion of the chaotic divine infant formed a huge wave of energy that swept towards every part of Shaolin Yu's body. Shaolin Yu had been prepared for this. Most of the materials he had prepared before were used to stabilize his body. Furthermore, he had already raised the quality of his body to the level of a high-grade god artifact. He could still withstand such an energy wave. The energy wave from the explosion of the chaotic divine infant stopped in just a single breath. Afterward, the energy stopped in his veins, no longer returning to his dantian. What was worth mentioning was that the explosion of the chaotic divine infant did not shatter the 6 poison heart lotus seeds. They had only been blasted to a corner of the dantian. Once the impact of the energy stopped, they gathered together again, forming a circle of 6 points. Next, he swallowed the lily of creation. The energy within it spread out in Shaolin Yu's stomach, flowing through Shaolin Yu's entire body. It led the energy to gather in Shaolin Yu's dantian once more. After all, the energy came from the explosion of the chaotic divine infant, so it possessed the characteristics of a nascent soul. The lily of creation had the special effect of stabilizing and nourishing the nascent soul, so it was able to gather the energy. With the assistance of the lily of creation's energy, the exploded chaotic divine infant slowly appeared in Shaolin Yu's dantian once more. As the chaotic divine infant reformed, 6 petals of various colors gradually appeared above the chaotic divine infant's head. They slowly revolved. As long as the chaotic divine infant was successfully reconstructed and the 6 petals solidified, Shaolin Yu would be halfway through his attempt to reach the 6th cycle. He could only proceed with the other half of the breakthrough after he succeeded in this half. Originally, with an existence like the lily of creation, the first half of the cultivation should have gone very smoothly. The chaotic divine nascent soul and the 6 petals would be able to condense as he wished. However, at the final moment, while the chaotic divine nascent soul was fine, the 6 petals showed signs of collapsing. The reason for this was probably because the lily of creation's quality was not very high, or perhaps it was because the lily of creation had not been preserved properly before. However, to Shaolin Yu's surprise, just as the 6 petals showed signs of collapsing, the 6 poison heart lotus seeds rushed forward uncontrollably, as if they wanted to devour the 6 petals. At the moment, the chaotic divine infant was still in a muddled state, so it would not help the 6 petals. Shaolin Yu was also in a state of cultivation, so he could not move as he wished. He could only use his mind to watch the 6 petals and the 6 poison heart lotus seeds fight each other. The 6 petals were already showing signs of collapsing. Furthermore, they had just formed and didn't have the slightest support. Naturally, they weren't a match for the 6 poison heart lotus seeds. Not long after, they were completely absorbed by the 6 poison heart lotus seeds. Shaolin Yu felt a little despair at that moment. With the 6 petals being devoured, his attempt to reach the 6th cycle had failed halfway. What surprised Shaolin Yu, who was in despair, was that after the 6 poison heart lotus seeds devoured the 6 petals, a small lotus flower slowly grew out of them. The 6 small lotus flowers were of different colors, and they gradually grew from the size of a thumb to the size of a palm before stopping. They floated above the chaotic divine infant's head and formed a circle as they slowly rotated. At the same time, they cast rings of colorful light that enveloped the chaotic divine infant. That works? Shaolin Yu was both surprised and delighted. However, he was only halfway through his attempt to reach the 6th cycle. The next problem was the same as reaching the chaotic divine transformation stage. Shaolin Yu had to rely on his own comprehension of the chaotic divine transformation stage to make a breakthrough in his cultivation. Only then could he successfully reach the 6th cycle. It was the grayish-black metal piece that had helped him the last time. Moreover, it was also the grayish-black metal piece that had helped him through the chaotic divine tribulation. Thus, Shaolin Yu was certain that the grayish-black metal piece was extremely helpful to the soul. As long as it was within its tolerance range, it would protect his soul from being destroyed. Therefore, Shaolin Yu didn't intend to passively accept the test this time. He first took out the Divine Monarch Stage Demonic Beast's golden soul bead and placed it in his spiritual sea before exploding it. When he discovered that the grayish-black metal piece hidden in his golden soul bead would absorb a portion of the soul force, he decided to detonate his golden soul bead as well. This was a risky move. If the grayish-black metal piece did not do the same as before, his soul would only be destroyed. However, he had no choice but to take the risk. Shaolin Yu had always progressed very quickly, and his comprehension of the chaotic divine transformation could not keep up with his actual cultivation. He could only find another way to solve this problem. Chapter 540. After waiting anxiously for a while, Xiaolin Yu knew that he had made the right choice when he saw the pure soul energy flowing out of the metal piece. He had entered that strange planet to avoid being hunted down and obtain this metal piece after going through many dangers. He had never thought that this metal piece would be so useful to him. He couldn't help but be grateful for Yan Tianzi's guidance. He was also glad that he hadn't given this metal piece to that young expert from the God realm. Of course, he also had to thank Jiang Lanyua's sister for protecting him in the cultivation world. Just like the last chaotic divine tribulation, the soul energy that gushed out from the grayish-black metal piece gradually formed a new golden soul bead. Once again, it enveloped the grayish-black metal piece. Moreover, the realm of his soul had improved significantly. The soul energy in that divine monarch monster's golden soul bead should have been completely integrated into Xiaolin Yu's new golden soul bead, causing Xiaolin Yu's soul realm to rise to the level of an early-stage divine monarch. Actually, for a sixth transformation stage cultivator, as long as his soul energy was comparable to a mid-stage or late-stage divine monarch, he would be able to control all the energy in his body. However, Xiaolin Yu was no ordinary cultivator. Not only was his bloodline special and powerful, his body was also poisonous, and he had large amounts of blood crystals. His body quality and life essence far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. Under normal circumstances, a sixth transformation stage cultivator would have the strength of a mid-stage divine monarch. However, Xiaolin Yu could easily defeat any cultivator below the divine monarch stage without using any magic treasures. If he also took into account his various special abilities and magic treasures, no early-stage divine monarch cultivator without a supreme-grade divine artifact would be able to do anything to him. It should be known that after his strength increased, his various abilities would also improve. Furthermore, he would be able to unleash the power of his divine artifacts. Whoosh! Xiaolin Yu exhaled deeply as he emerged from the eight-legged Tai Chi cauldron. Xiaolin Yu quickly walked out of the cave after putting away the eight-legged Tai Chi cauldron. After blasting away the mountain rocks blocking the cave entrance, he stood at the waist of the cliff and rushed into the void before him. Xiaolin Yu felt his body become much lighter. The pressure of the space and the suction of the ground seemed to have weakened. Not only could he easily float in the air, but he could also walk on the void. In the God realm, only those who had reached the divine monarch stage could walk on the air for long periods of time. Other than flying beasts, flying was also a symbol of a divine monarch. This forest was the territory of late heavenly God realm demonic beasts, and there were very few divine monarch realm demonic beasts in the nearby cultivation world. Xiaolin Yu naturally didn't have to worry too much. He stepped on the void and flew slowly, at the same time sensing his own realm. After entering the sixth revolution, Xiaolin Yu felt that his world had broadened by quite a bit. Within his soul and heart, all sorts of mysterious and profound scenes would appear. As long as he calmed his heart and sensed the surrounding nature, these scenes would appear. Not only did they contain the truth of chaos, but they also contain the true essence of cultivation and everything in the universe. Understanding these scenes was extremely important to Xiaolin Yu's cultivation in this realm. The sixth transformation. Chaos Tongxian. Could it be that I have to comprehend these mysterious things? Sigh, comprehension. This is my weakness. I guess I'll have to stay in this realm for a long time. Xiaolin Yu sensed and pondered as he flew out of the primeval forest. Xiaolin Yu, who had just broken through to the sixth cycle of primal chaos Tongxian, wasn't suitable to fight against divine lord existences. To him, the most important thing was to stabilize and familiarize himself with his cultivation. Only then would he be able to use his various methods more rationally in future battles. After calculating the time, more than 200 years had passed. He wondered how Kun City was like now. After flying out of the forest, Xiaolin Yu first went to the home of hunters to sit for a while. The home of hunters was as lively as usual. Hundreds of hunters were drinking and chatting. Xiaolin Yu tasted his wine and listened carefully. With the increase in his realm, he could hear every cultivator's words clearly. Although some time had passed since the chaos in Kun City, everyone was still talking about the great battle and the impact it had on Kun City. What surprised Xiaolingyu was that he had killed Qi Hongli, the young master of the Qi family, on the street of Kun City. People often talked about it, but there were many versions. Some said it was for revenge, some said it was because of a lover, and some even said that Xiaolingyu was a member of the Kong family and the Wang family. In Xiaolingyu's imagination, the Qi clan would definitely swallow up the Bai clan. However, that was not the case. In fact, the Bai clan was already controlled by the Qi clan. The reason why the Bai clan could become one of the 4 great clans was because of the Qi clan's support. What surprised Xiaolingyu even more was that the Qi clan had already given up on Kun City. In Kun City, only the Bai clan had a divine monarch expert. Kun City had become the property of the Bai clan. However, everyone knew that the Bai clan of Kun City was also the Qi clan. It was just that this Qi clan was in the Hush City. Qi Zhenghao had brought the entire Kun City's Qi clan to Du City. Only a few well-informed cultivators knew that Kun City's Qi clan had returned to the embrace of their clan. The overall strength of Du City's Qi clan was very strong. Yueru's soul imprint and Xiaolingyu's communication pearl was still there. This proved that Yueru did not meet with any mishap. Furthermore, no one in the home of hunters said that the Qi clan had used Yueru to threaten anything. Furthermore, they did not put up a bounty on Xiaolingyu. There were 2 reasons for this. First, the Qi clan wanted to save face. Second, they were about to move to the Hush City. After asking around in the home of hunters for a while, Xiaolingyu went to Kun City. The lockdown of Kun City had already been lifted. However, whether it was the city gates or inside the city, the security was very tight. Originally, Xiaolingyu thought that he would be able to walk freely in Kun City after the Qi clan left. However, he did not expect that less than an hour after he entered the city, a large group of city guards blocked him in one of the streets. It seemed that the Qi clan had told the Bai clan before they left. The matter of Xiaolingyu killing the Qi clan's young master, Qi Hongli, did not end just because the Qi clan left Kun City. Facing these heavenly god city guards, Xiaolingyu only frowned slightly. Before he reached the chaotic ethereal enlightenment stage, he was not afraid of any heavenly god. Now, these city guards were not a threat to him at all. After these city guards surrounded Xiaolingyu, they did not say anything and directly pounced on him. Xiaolingyu, on the other hand, only paused for a moment before releasing a little bit of his aura. In an instant, he pushed all the surrounding city guards far away, and most of the city guards were shocked by his aura to the point of spitting out blood. Not only were the city guards so scared that they did not dare to take half a step forward, even the passers-by who did not know what was going on covered their mouths in shock. Who dares to be so impudent in Kun City? Just as Xiaolingyu was about to leave, a majestic voice suddenly came from the sky. Then, a figure flew out from the city and appeared in the sky in the blink of an eye. The person who came was an old cultivator. His hair and beard were white and black. Moreover, he wore a coarse robe that was wrinkled, making him look even less heroic. But no one dared to underestimate this person, not even Xiaolingyu. This was because this person stepped on the void and was currently floating in the air. It was obvious that this person was a divine monarch expert. In Kun City, only the Bai clan had a divine monarch expert. Therefore, there was no need to guess who this person was. So it's you. I didn't think that you would dare to come to Kun City again. The person who came said to Xiaolingyu in an indifferent tone. He still had an arrogant look on his face. In a place like Kun City, a divine monarch expert was indeed qualified to be arrogant. Ever since the other 3 clans left Kun City, this divine monarch from the Bai clan was the #1 expert in Kun City. You're just a lackey of the Qi clan. How dare you boast so shamelessly? Xiaolingyu retorted sarcastically. You're courting death. The divine monarch from the Bai clan was furious. Ever since he reached the divine monarch stage, no one had ever dared to speak to him in such a manner. His body flashed and he descended from the sky. Then, he slapped towards Xiaolingyu's head. This divine monarch wanted to use his actions to prove that he was not to be trifled with. His speed was extremely fast. At least, he was faster than Xiaoling Yu. Although Xiaoling Yu had the strength to fight against a divine monarch, his speed was still not as fast as the divine monarch. Therefore, Xiaoling Yu did not dodge the divine monarch's attack. Instead, he threw a punch at the divine monarch's palm. Boom! The fist and the palm collided. Xiaoling Yu took a few steps back. The bluestone under his feet immediately shattered. As for the divine monarch from the Bai clan, he was sent flying far away. There was even a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. In a clash of physical strength, Xiaoling Yu would definitely not lose to an ordinary divine monarch cultivator. Divine monarch? After the divine monarch from the Bai clan stabilized himself, he looked at Xiaoling Yu in surprise. He did not attack again. Why? Are you afraid? Xiaoling Yu smiled. Humph. The divine monarch from the Bai clan snorted. His expression changed several times before he said, "Since you're at the divine monarch stage, you do have the right to be presumptuous in the city. However, I advise you not to be too arrogant. There's always someone better out there." To everyone's surprise, after the divine monarch from the Bai clan said those words, he flew into the sky again and disappeared. Since the divine monarch from the Bai clan had retreated without a fight, the ordinary city guards naturally did not dare to make things difficult for Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu, on the other hand, smiled and said to himself, "This old fellow must be injured. Otherwise, my punch just now would not have been able to injure him. He would not have left so easily at this time." Xiaoling Yu was not in a position to fight to the death with a divine monarch at the moment. Moreover, there was nothing in Kun City that he was reluctant to leave. He did not continue to wander around Kun City. He bought a few more jade slips and left the city. Chapter 541. Out of all the maps, there was only one map that covered a relatively large area. It cost Xiaoling Yu close to 50,000 godstones to buy it. This map was centered around Duwu City. It had the locations of hundreds of cities around Duwu City as well as the routes between them. Other than Duwu City, the rest of the cities on the map were all small cities like Kun City. Only Duwu City was a medium-grade city in the God world. Xiaoling Yu wanted to expand his horizons and expand his horizons. Going to Duwu City was the best choice. Ordinary small cities were similar to Kun City. There was no point in going to such a small city. Xiaoling Yu didn't hesitate. After leaving Kun City, he started to study the route to Duwu City. Kun City was very far from Duwu City. The distance between the 2 points was close to 200 million miles. If he took the safer route on the map, it would be 250 million miles. When Xiaoling Yu first came to Kun City from the Linggu Valley, it took him 30 years to travel the 8 million miles. However, now that his strength had increased and he could fly, his speed had increased by more than 10 times. It would probably take him at most 100 years to travel the 250 million miles. After identifying the direction, Xiaoling Yu leaped into the air at the entrance of Kun City. If only this realm of the gods had a teleportation array. While flying at full speed, Xiaoling Yu muttered to himself. On the road to Duwu City, they had bypassed all the places where Divine Lord realm monster beasts or vicious beasts might appear. With Xiaoling Yu's current strength, he could confidently move forwards. As long as he didn't make too big of a mistake, this road should be very peaceful. A year passed. Xiaoling Yu left Kun City. 10 years passed. As expected, he had covered 10% of the journey. 50 years passed. Xiaoling Yu suddenly saw a rainbow break through the sky. He was shocked to find that the rainbow was more than 10 times faster than him. High-grade flying god equipment. Xiaoling Yu was shocked. Although there are no teleportation arrays here, it would appear that the cultivators from the celestial plane would be relying on flying-type magic treasures for their long-distance journeys. Not many of them are like me, who has been relying on their own speed to move forward. If only I had known, I would have brought a better flying-type magic treasure with me, Xiaoling Yu said gloomily. Without a good flying Dharma treasure, Xiaoling Yu could only hurry on with his journey. 90 years passed. When he was only 10% of the way to Duwu City, Shaolin Yu came to a boundless mountain range. This mountain range was the last area from Qin City to Duwu City. Shaolin Yu had to cross 25,000 miles of forest before he could see Duwu City. However, this mountain range was very famous near Duwu City. It was called the Floating Su Mountain Range because of the floating around everywhere. Other than the floating around everywhere, the Floating Su Mountain Range had another obvious characteristic. It often rained, but it was mostly drizzling. The Floating Su Mountain Range was extremely vast. There were many high-grade beasts and ferocious beasts roaming around. Even god monarchs didn't dare to enter. It was said that even god kings had to be careful. The Floating Su Mountain Range was an irregular oval. The 25 million miles of forest between Shaolin Yu and Duwu City was just a corner of the Floating Su Mountain Range. Duwu City was located at the edge of this corner of the Floating Su Mountain Range. This corner of the Floating Su Mountain Range was considered the periphery. Occasionally, god monarchs and ferocious beasts could be seen. It was considered a relatively safe area. After all, it was close to Duwu City. The hunters of Duwu City would enter this area all year round. The high-grade beasts and ferocious beasts wouldn't be willing to be hunted or harassed here. However, although this was a relatively safe mountain forest, there were still many flying beasts roaming the skies. There was no lack of Divine Lord realm existences. If one had a relatively fast high-grade flying divine artifact, then they could fly through the skies. But with just their bodies, it was easy for them to be surrounded and attacked by those flying beasts. However, if he went around this forest, the distance would be 5 times longer. Therefore, Shaolin Yu descended from the sky and entered the forest from the ground. He concealed his aura and advanced. Since there were very few god monarchs on the ground, Shaolin Yu wouldn't be in too much danger. Even if he met a god monarchs, he wouldn't be afraid. After rushing for nearly 100 years, he had a good understanding of his own realm and strength. After entering the forest, Shaolin Yu advanced at a moderate pace. Occasionally, he would kill a few beasts. When he came across some good treasures, he would collect them. With Shaolin Yu's current speed, it would take him more than 10 years to pass through this forest. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry. From time to time, he would stop to adjust his state of mind. He didn't want to face any danger in a weak state. Shaolin Yu spent another 6 years in peace. He finally reached the central area of the forest. He had to be more careful because there were still many god monarchs in this area. On this day, Shaolin Yu, who had slowed down a lot, suddenly heard the sound of fighting. It was accompanied by the roars of beasts. The ground was shaking violently. At this time, it was drizzling in the forest. But strangely, the flower-like fluff could dance lightly in the drizzle. However, whether it was the drizzle or fluff, because of the impact of the fighting, they changed their original trajectory and drifted diagonally to one side. Shaolin Yu had never been a meddlesome person. This time, he decided to stay far away from the fighting. However, just as he chose to take a detour, the battle over there seemed to have come to an end. A huge demonic beast quickly rushed towards him. Within a few breaths, it was already in front of him. This beast was more than 100 feet tall. It had the limbs of an ape and the head of a tiger. Shaolin Yu knew that this was a tiger-ape beast. It was known for its powerful strength. However, its speed was not fast, which was its weakness. From the aura of this tiger-ape beast, it could be seen that it had the cultivation of an early-stage god monarch. Its strength couldn't be underestimated. But at this time, it was covered with injuries and bathed in blood. Moreover, its face was full of anger and unwillingness. To be able to force a god monarch tiger-ape beast into such a state, its opponent should be at the god monarch stage. Shaolin Yu didn't want to get involved in a fight at the god monarch stage. Therefore, he immediately chose to retreat to one side. But at this time, a call came from behind the tiger-ape beast. "Fellow Taoist, stop it. I'll give you half of the reward." Shaolin Yu ignored this call and still retreated to the side, allowing the tiger-ape beast to pass by him. the tiger-ape beast was focused on escaping. Although it saw Xiaoling Yu's retreat made it not attack Xiaoling Yu. Instead, it continued to speed up its escape. Just as the tiger-ape beast ran away, a group of cultivators chased after it. Unfortunately, their speed was not fast. At this time, they could only see the tiger-ape beast's tall back. Sigh. We let it escape for the third time. I don't think it will be fooled again next time. A young-looking cultivator stopped in his tracks and said gloomily. At least we didn't suffer any losses, right? A female cultivator in a snow-white dress said. It's good that we didn't suffer any losses. But if we don't get any rewards and can't complete the mission, we are all wasting our efforts. A big bearded man angrily stabbed the big knife in his hand into the ground and sat down under a big tree. He looked very unhappy. In addition to the 3 cultivators who spoke, there were 2 other people in the team. However, these 2 people also looked disappointed and tired. What surprised Xiaoling Yu the most was that this team of 5 looked like they were all at the heavenly deity stage, yet they were still able to reach this place. Moreover, they were able to beat the early divine monarch tiger ape into such a miserable state. This was simply unbelievable. However, this had nothing to do with Xiaoling Yu. He was not in the mood to inquire about it. He just glanced at it and prepared to continue moving forward. Wait! Xiaoling Yu had just taken a step when he heard someone shouting at him. The other party did not have a divine monarch, so Xiaoling Yu was naturally not afraid. He stopped and asked, "What's the matter? You bastard, why didn't you stop the tiger-ape beast just now? It was already seriously injured. You could have stopped it with a casual attack." The younger cultivator questioned Xiaoling Yu with a furious look on his face. Judging by his voice, he should be the one who asked Xiaoling Yu to stop the tiger-ape beast. Why should I help? What does your hunting have to do with me? Xiaoling Yu asked with a smile. The young cultivator was stumped. He turned to the big man and asked, "Boss, why did he help us?" The woman in the snow-white dress could not help but laugh. The other cultivators looked at the young cultivator with contempt. The big man was also troubled. He thought for a moment and replied, "You said he would get half of the commission." The young cultivator slapped his own forehead as if he suddenly realized something. Then, he said to Xiaoling Yu, "Oh right, I just said that you'll get half of the commission." Then, did I say that I would accept your suggestion? Xiaoling Yu was also a little interested, and asked again. Did he say that? The young cultivator asked the people around him. Shut up, you brat. Your brain is not good, and you still like to show off. The big man scolded with black lines on his forehead. The young cultivator muttered a few words resentfully and then lowered his head. Brother, even if you were just passing by, you should have lent us a helping hand just now. After all, for a divine monarch powerhouse like you, this is just a matter of lifting a hand. Xiaoling Yu saw that the other party was silent and was about to leave when the woman in the white dress suddenly stepped forward and said, "Divine monarch?" The other 4 male cultivators were very surprised. Their cultivation level was relatively low, so they could not see Xiaoling Yu's real situation. Chapter 542. Those who often help out for justice are probably all dead. I'm not related to you in any way, and I'm only helping out for justice. You guys don't have that much face. Xiaoling Yu replied indifferently. You! The white-dressed woman's expression was originally very calm, but after hearing Xiaoling Yu's words, her beautiful eyes immediately widened, as if she was very angry. Senior, can you help us kill that tiger-ape beast? We can give half of the commission. Oh no, more than half of it to Senior. The brawny man also walked to the front and spoke to Xiaoling Yu very politely. How much is your commission? Xiaoling Yu asked. 100,000 high-grade divine stone. The brawny man with the late stage of heavenly god replied. 100,000 high-grade divine stone is also 10 million middle-grade divine stone. It's not a small amount, no wonder you guys are so desperate. Xiaoling Yu pondered for a moment, then said, As long as you can find that tiger-ape beast again, I can help you once. As for the commission, just as you said earlier, I want 60,000 high-grade divine stone. Thank you, Senior. The brawny man said sincerely. Boss, how can you give him so much? If you give him 60,000, we'll have to take it again. Shut up. Without waiting for the young cultivator to finish speaking, the brawny man glared at him and scolded. When do we make our move? Xiaoling Yu asked. In any case, they were about to reach the city, so Xiaoling Yu did not mind picking up a business deal on the way. 60,000 high-grade divine stone was not a small amount. We have just experienced a great battle and need to recover first. Senior, please wait for 2 days. The brawny man replied, that tiger-ape beast is already heavily injured, so it definitely won't be able to escape too far. It won't be able to recover in a short period of time, so we don't have to be too anxious. The young cultivator wanted to say something, but when he saw the white-dressed woman quietly return to the group, he tactfully shut his mouth. Junior Xiongmeng, may I know Senior's name? The brawny man said to Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu replied calmly. As the saying goes, one does not slap a smiling face. Since the other party was so polite, Xiaoling Yu naturally could not treat him coldly. After all, in theory, they were teammates now. Come, Senior Xiao, let me introduce you to us. Xiongmeng was very attentive. He first pointed at the young cultivator and said, his name is Zhang Hai. He usually likes to blabber and never gets to the point. Hey, boss, is that how you talk about your own brother? After hearing Xiongmeng's introduction, the young cultivator replied unhappily. Xiongmeng ignored Zhang Hai and pointed at the woman in white. She is Miss Jing. She is good at healing and has saved all of our lives. The white-dressed woman, Miss Jing, nodded at Xiaoling Yu politely, and Xiaoling Yu returned a smile. These two brothers are called Ma Chun and Ma Qiu. They are both reliable and capable people. Xiongmeng pointed at the last two cultivators who looked similar. Okay, everyone find a place to rest. Tomorrow, we will go find the tiger ape. After the introduction, Xiongmeng began to arrange for everyone to move. Xiaoling Yu followed the group of cultivators to a cave. Xiongmeng set up a fire and seemed to be preparing to barbecue some meat. Ma Chun and Ma Qiu were arranged to be on guard outside. The inside of the cave was rather spacious. It was about 15 to 16 feet long and wide. Xiongmeng, Miss Jing, and Zhang Hai, who had been talking non-stop, sat around the fire. Xiaoling Yu was alone in a corner of the cave, leaning against the wall as he meditated. Miss Jing, is he really a divine monarch expert? Zhang Hai saw that Xiaoling Yu was not moving at all and seemed to be meditating, so he whispered. Miss Jing also looked at Xiaoling Yu and did not answer. Xiongmeng stuffed a bone with raw meat into Zhang Hai's mouth and said impatiently, Brat, can your mouth be quiet for a while? Although the cave looked spacious, even a true god cultivator could use their divine sense to sense everything here and hear anything, not to mention that everyone's cultivation was above the true god stage. Although Xiaoling Yu seemed to be cultivating, he could clearly hear everyone's words. The reason Miss Jing did not answer was probably because Xiaoling Yu was beside her. Soon, the cave was filled with the smell of meat, making people salivate. Xiongmeng handed a piece of cooked meat to Zhang Hai and said, Here, send this to Senior Xiao. I'm not going to curry favor with him. Zhang Hai carried the cooked meat to the entrance of the cave and said, I only send meat to my brothers. This brat is too. Xiongmeng's eyes widened in anger, but he did not know how to continue. He was clearly not good with words. I'll send it. Miss Jing cut off a piece of cooked meat and sprinkled some seasoning on it. Then, without waiting for Xiongmeng to say anything, she got up and walked towards Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu wasn't hungry, but the smell of the meat assaulted his nostrils. He had stopped meditating long ago. Brother Xiao, let's eat something first. Miss Jing walked over to Xiaoling Yu and half-squatted as she spoke in a low voice. With the delicious food in front of him, Xiaoling Yu naturally stopped meditating. He slowly opened his eyes and the first thing he saw was Miss Jing's beautiful face. Then, he lowered his head and saw a piece of cooked meat emitting an aroma. However, the moment he lowered his head, Xiaoling Yu caught a glimpse of Miss Jing's ample cleavage. Fortunately, Xiaoling Yu was not a lecherous person. Even if he took a glance, he did not have any reaction. Most importantly, he did not stop at all. He only muttered in his heart, "Thank you, Miss Jing." Xiaoling Yu took the cooked meat and saw the silver bracelet on Miss Jing's wrist. This bracelet is incomparably exquisite. Indeed, the bracelet was made of 2 silver threads connected to many different colored gems. Not only did it look resplendent, but it also didn't lose its luxuriousness. However, the reason why Xiaoling Yu suddenly said this was because he felt that this bracelet wasn't just a simple decoration. It should be a high-grade magical artifact. Xiaoling Yu had also studied the way of refining, and had seen many divine artifacts. His judgment of magical artifacts was not much worse than the God King stage experts of the divine world. Not only is it exquisite, it also has many other uses. Miss Jing's expression didn't change. "It smells so good. The quality of this meat isn't low. With the addition of some good seasoning, this meat is much more delicious than the food in the city's restaurants." Xiaoling Yu didn't linger on the issue of the bracelet. He first praised the barbecued meat, then took a big bite and chewed carefully. The satisfied expression on his face grew thicker and thicker. As he spoke, Xiaoling Yu checked the meat and the seasoning on it. After confirming that there were no problems, he took a bite. "Since Brother Xiao likes it, then eat more." After replying, Miss Jing returned to the bonfire and cut off a large piece of cooked meat before delivering it to Xiaoling Yu. "Why don't you eat some?" Xiaoling Yu took the meat and asked curiously. There was another point that Xiaoling Yu was curious about. Xiong Meng, who was in the late stage of the God realm, called him senior, but Miss Jing called him Brother Xiao. Her cultivation was indeed in the God realm. She didn't want to be lower than Xiaoling Yu by a generation. This was a bit thought-provoking. When Miss Jing revealed that he was in the God Monarch stage, it attracted Xiaoling Yu's attention. "I don't like barbecued meat. I prefer fresh fruits." Miss Jing took out a clean, bright red fruit that looked like a ripe tomato and took a small bite. That fruit wasn't a high-grade treasure, but it was probably delicious and refreshing. "Senior Xiao, try the fruit wine that Miss Jing brewed herself." After the barbecued meat was finished, Xiong Meng carried a large piece of meat to Xiaoling Yu and handed over a wine bag. "You're presenting Buddha with borrowed flowers again," Miss Jing interrupted. "All right, try Miss Jing's cooking." Xiaoling Yu was a bit curious. He took the wine bag and sniffed it. Then, he pretended to praise it. "It smells so good. It must taste good." Then, he took a sip. Xiaoling Yu had a highly toxic body now, so he wasn't afraid of poisons. Moreover, he was extremely sensitive to poisons in any situation. The fruit wine was very weak, and it was soft and sweet when it entered the mouth. It was more suitable for women. But a moment later, the wine entered the soul and gave a refreshing feeling. It was incomparably comfortable. No wonder a strong man like Xiong Meng liked to drink this fruit wine. This mouthful of fruit wine was better than meditating for half a day. It was also quite useful for quickly recovering one's strength. It would be a waste of natural resources if he drank it like a cow when he had nothing to do. Therefore, Xiaoling Yu only took a sip and praised it. Then, he returned the wine bag to Xiong Meng. Xiong Meng couldn't bear to take a sip himself. He put away the wine bag and said, "This wine has no kick. I prefer strong wine." The night passed uneventfully. When the sky began to brighten, Xiong Meng called for everyone to move out. Under Xiong Meng's lead, the group of 6 quickly moved through the mountain forest. Seeing that Xiong Meng didn't observe or identify the direction, they guessed that they should know the location of the tiger ape. There was no need to search carefully. For hours later, everyone stopped in front of an orchard. This orchard was also filled with fluffy cotton. However, there was also a dense fog. Those fruit trees were faintly discernible in the fog. These fruits looked green and tender. They shouldn't have matured yet. Moreover, they were only ordinary fruits in the realm of the gods. That tiger ape is in this fog. I wonder if Miss Jing's method will be able to lure it out. Xiong Meng muttered to himself. Then, he took out a conch-like magic treasure. Strangely, Xiong Meng only poured a bit of his divine power into the magic treasure. That conch-like magic treasure began to emit a whining sound wave. Shaolin Yu guessed that they were relying on this sound wave to lure the tiger ape out. However, the tiger ape seemed to have been fooled several times. It was hard to say whether it would come out this time. After all, the tiger ape was seriously injured before. The time to drink a cup of tea passed. An hour passed. 2 hours. Chapter 543. The tiger ape was more than 100 feet tall. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble slightly. It was like a small mountain moving horizontally, bringing with it a violent aura. Roar! Seeing Xiong Meng and the others, the tiger ape let out an angry roar. It picked up a huge rock from the ground and threw it at them. Ha! Xiong Meng roared. He waved his hand and shot out a divine light to blow the huge rock away. Then they quickly retreated dozens of feet away. Senior Xiao is responsible for cutting off its retreat. We will deal with it directly. Xiong Meng reminded Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu was happy that they didn't have to fight directly. He nodded slightly and circled behind the tiger ape. At this time, Xiong Meng had already taken out a big iron shield in front of them. The tiger ape was constantly punching the iron shield. What surprised Shaolin Yu was that the strength of a Divine Lord stage demonic beast was extremely formidable. Xiong Meng was actually able to rely on the strength of one person and one magic weapon to block the tiger ape's fist. Taking a closer look, Shaolin Yu discovered that the large iron shield had the quality of a peak mid-level defensive artifact. Every time it was hit, a large part of it would immediately be dented. However, when the tiger ape withdrew its fist, the dented part would immediately be restored to its original state. It was truly miraculous. The two brothers, Ma Chun and Ma Qiu, were in charge of attacking together with Zhang Hai. They were all holding an extremely sharp mid-grade divine blade, constantly rushing out from under the iron shield. After slashing the tiger ape beast, they would immediately retreat, allowing the furious tiger ape beast to retaliate against the big iron shield. Shaolin Yu had already seen that the reason why they dared to challenge the tiger ape was because of Xiong Meng's strength and the magical defense of the big iron shield. However, Shaolin Yu felt that it would be difficult for them to defeat the tiger ape. After all, it was at the Divine Monarch stage. Although the three cultivators in charge of attacking were able to hit the tiger ape beast, the wounds left by their divine sabers were only able to slow down the tiger ape beast's condition. It was not enough to pose much of a threat. If this tiger ape beast did not have any other attack patterns, and if Xiong Meng was able to persevere, then he would be able to wear down this tiger ape beast to death. But a god monarch stage existence should be able to withstand a bit more than a heavenly deity stage cultivator. In fact, as the tiger ape beast became more and more violent, Xiong Meng's resistance became more and more strenuous. Every time the tiger ape beast smashed into the big iron shield, Xiong Meng would retreat a few steps, and the clothes on his upper body would be torn by him. However, Xiong Meng had already taken out the wineskin that contained the fruit wine. Every once in a while, he would take a small sip to maintain his condition. When the tiger ape beast saw that its attacks were not effective, it shifted the focus of its attacks to deal with the three people who were constantly harassing it. Its two legs quickly kicked out, and even though the three people were very careful, they were still inevitably hit. The three people also had good defensive methods, but being kicked by a god monarch stage demonic beast was no joke. As long as they were hit, they would spit out blood and be sent flying far away. What made Shaolin Yu flabbergasted was that Miss Jing waved her hand at her injured companions and released a circle of holy white light. Then, her injured companions immediately recovered from their injuries and continued to fight in good condition. This healing divine technique is really very powerful and very useful. Xiao Lingyu could not help but praise in his heart. This Miss Jing was the biggest reason why this team was able to defeat this seemingly stupid tiger ape beast. Xiao Lingyu also keenly discovered that the holy white light from Miss Jing's hand was actually released by the delicate bracelet on her wrist. From her effortless expression and posture, it could be seen that the holy white light released by the bracelet did not consume much of her energy. Zhang Hai and the other two did not have any worries about the rear. They had been attacking without regard for their own safety. Even though their attack power was not high, but after a long time, they would still pose a threat to the tiger ape beast. And Xiong Meng, who was fully focused on defense, had the fruit wine in his hand, so he would not be in a state of physical exhaustion. As a result, they were able to deal with the tiger ape beast. The tiger ape beast was repeatedly provoked. It was clear that the other party's strength was not as good as it, but it could not do anything to the other party. This made it very angry and unwilling, so it was still desperately attacking. It seemed to think that it should not retreat and that the other party should not be able to hold on for too long. Unfortunately, after fighting for a long time, Xiong Meng and the others were still in good condition. They continued to attack, and not only did the tiger ape beast's condition continue to decline, but its injuries also became more serious. Once again, it realized that it could not continue to fight, so it decisively chose to retreat like the previous few times. At present, it was not far from its territory, which was the fruit forest full of fog. It was precisely because of this point that it came out to fight. Moreover, before coming out, it had already made up its mind to not go too far from its territory. But what it did not know was that this time was very different from the previous few times. The other party had one more person, and this person had the strength of a divine monarch. When the tiger ape beast turned around and prepared to escape, Xiao Lingyu made his move. He did not use any magic weapon, only a fist fiercely smashed over. This tiger ape beast's speed was not fast, and its body was also injured. Naturally, it was unable to dodge Xiao Lingyu's long-prepared attack. It also did not prepare to dodge. It felt that this person in front of it was a stupid act to fight with its strength. Since you dare to block me, then taste my fists filled with anger. As the tiger ape beast rushed towards the fruit forest, it quickly smashed out a fist. Xiao Lingyu's size was originally much smaller than the tiger ape beast. His entire body was not even the size of the tiger ape beast's fist, and was not even the size of a finger. Purely based on size, he would definitely not be able to block the tiger ape beast's fist. But just as the two fists were about to collide, Xiao Lingyu's arm rapidly expanded. His entire arm suddenly turned into a dragon claw, and his fist turned into a dragon fist. Boom! The dragon fist and the ape fist collided. What was surprising was that at this moment, Xiao Lingyu suddenly appeared behind him. The golden dragon's image flashed, and Xiao Lingyu's body continuously retreated several tens of feet before stabilizing. That tiger ape beast's huge body also retreated a few steps. After Xiao Lingyu stabilized his body, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. After a moment, he rushed towards the tiger ape beast again. At this moment, Xiong Meng's group of 5 also caught up and launched an attack from behind the tiger ape beast. With Xiao Lingyu's powerful obstruction, the tiger ape beast definitely did not think of escaping safely. It seemed to know that it could not escape today, so it angrily attacked Xiong Meng's group. It probably felt that it could not harm Xiao Lingyu. Once a divine monarch stage demonic beast went berserk and fought back like a trapped beast, that was when it was at its most dangerous. Even if Xiao Lingyu continuously attacked the tiger ape beast, it relied on its thick skin and high cultivation to withstand a few attacks. Under its fierce attacks, Xiong Meng's group, with the exception of Miss Jing, were all in danger. Although his mission was only to block the tiger ape beast, Xiao Lingyu still saved the weaker Ma Chun, Ma Qiu, and Zhang Hai several times. In the end, the tiger ape beast collapsed with a loud bang, and its enormous body was swiftly sealed by Xiao Lingyu. Fortunately, Senior Xiao was here. Otherwise, even if we killed it in the end, we would have suffered great losses. Xiong Meng said with a face of lingering fear. Thank you, Brother Xiao. Miss Jing said sincerely. I also wanted to earn those 60,000 high-grade spirit stones. No need to thank me, this is what I should do. Xiaoling Yu waved his hand and said generously. The mission is completed. Let's find a place to rest and then return to the city to receive the commission. Xiong Meng said with a face of joy. They casually found a cave to rest for half a day, and then everyone went back to the city together. Xiaoling Yu also had to follow them because they could not take out 60,000 high-grade spirit stones. They had to return to the city to receive the commission before they could pay the promised reward. Because of Xiaoling Yu's strength and the fact that he had saved several people's lives, Zhang Hai finally became more polite to him. Not only did he call Xiaoling Yu senior, but he also asked him a lot of questions very attentively. Senior Xiao, are you interested in joining our team? Zhang Hai asked on the way. Xiong Meng and the others also looked over with concern, as if they also wanted to know the answer. I like to be alone. Xiaoling Yu shook his head and smiled. Xiong Meng and the others all showed a bit of disappointment. If they could have such a powerful divine monarch powerhouse join, the team's combat strength would undoubtedly increase by a lot. What's so good about being alone? Not only will you be lonely, but you also won't have a companion. When you encounter trouble, you won't even have someone to help you. People say that a good man needs 3 helpers. An expert like you also needs a few assistants and errand boys, right? Zhang Hai said, unwilling to give up. Xiaoling Yu just smiled indifferently. Brother Xiao, this should be your first time in the city, right? Miss Jing asked. Yes. Xiaoling Yu nodded in response. Brother Xiao, are you planning to stay here for a long time, or are you just passing by? Miss Jing asked again. I don't think I'll be staying for long. Xiaoling Yu thought for a moment before answering. Miss Jing didn't say anything else, and everyone fell silent. Although Xiong Meng and the others were very familiar with the forest, it still took them a full 4 years to walk out of the forest. With Xiaoling Yu following them, and with their own strength, the journey was very peaceful. Outside the forest was a grassland, but the area wasn't too big. It took them less than half a month to cross it and arrive in front of a large river. The river was very wide, more than 100 miles wide. Across the river, they could see the outline of the city in the distance. What was a little surprising was that there was actually a big bridge across such a wide river. This big bridge was made of more than a dozen thick chains strung together with countless iron plates. It looked like a steel dragon. Although it looked swaying, it gave people a solid and safe feeling. Through this big bridge, they could reach the other side of the river. After walking for another few dozen miles, they would reach the city. Chapter 544. Is this a troop from Durban City? Xiaoling Yu asked in surprise. It's the Tianqi Iron Armor Regiment. It's the largest and strongest mercenary regiment in the city. It's said that the regiment commander is a divine king expert. Xiong Meng looked at the Iron Armor Regiment that was slowly crossing the river and said enviously. They are also our targets. I believe that under the leadership of our leader, our troop will be more powerful and magnificent than the Tianqi Iron Armor troop. Zhang Hai boasted shamelessly. I believe that as well. Unexpectedly, Miss Jing chimed in as well. I wish you success. Xiaoling Yu added with a smile. In fact, everyone knew that the Tianqi Iron Armor Regiment was not only big, but they also had a divine king expert. With the strength of Xiong Meng and the others, no one knew when they would be able to compete with the Tianqi Iron Armor Regiment. At the very least, the Tianqi Iron Armor Regiment would need a divine king expert. However, they didn't even have a divine emperor expert. No one knew if the Tianqi Iron Armor troop was purposely showing off when they crossed the bridge, but they were moving very slowly. From time to time, they would shout slogans that no one could hear clearly. Xiaoling Yu could not help but think that if the bridge suddenly broke, the Tianqi Iron Armor troop would all fall into the water. What a funny scene it would be. Just as Xiaoling Yu thought about it, a golden rainbow flew over from the horizon. When it passed by the bridge, the figure in the golden rainbow suddenly slashed a golden sword light at the bridge. It actually broke all the iron chains on the bridge. The Tianqi Iron Armor Troop was not prepared for this sudden change. Naturally, they all fell into the water along with the bridge. The current of the river was rapid, and even this powerful iron armor regiment was in a sorry state after falling into the river. Ha! I told you to show off. After the golden rainbow laughed heartily, it flew away and landed in the direction of Durban City. Madman Chi, I'm not done with you. Another figure flew into the air and yelled angrily at the city of Duhu. Welcome, welcome. Ha! A response came from the direction of Duhu City. The Tianqi Iron Armored Troop had all come ashore, but they all swam up from their hands. In just a few breaths of time, they stood together neatly, looking very disciplined. Although the bridge was broken, to Divine Monarch stage cultivators, the bridge existed in name only. Only those heavenly deity and great deity stage cultivators who couldn't fly across the river could only use flying artifacts or ships to cross the river. I'm afraid we'll have to trouble Senior Xiao to bring us there, Xiong Meng said helplessly. It's nothing. It's actually much safer to fly over than to take the bridge, Xiao Lingyu said with a smile. When Xiao Lingyu enveloped Xiong Meng and the other four with her aura and flew to the other side of the river, many cultivators waiting on both sides of the river cast envious gazes over. The city walls of Duhu City weren't very tall, only slightly taller than the city walls of Kun City. However, there were towers that emitted bursts of light at regular intervals on the city walls. There should be city guards stationed there. The expert in the Golden Rainbow just now, is he from the Qi clan? Xiao Lingyu asked curiously as they waited for the group to enter the city. Yes, he's the Qi clan's divine king. He has a strange temper and does things that cannot be judged by common sense. He's very strong, Xiong Meng nodded. How many divine kings does the Qi clan have? Xiao Lingyu asked again. I don't know. I only know this one. As for whether the Qi clan has more divine king experts, only the Qi clan knows, Xiong Meng replied. How many clans are as strong as the Qi clan in Duhu City? Xiao Lingyu asked again. There aren't many clans like the Qi clan, only 3. However, there are more than 10 clans with divine king experts, Xiong Meng replied. So many? Doesn't that mean the situation in Duhu City is very complicated? Xiao Lingyu frowned. It's good that there are more of them. Everyone is restricting each other, so the divine king experts in the other clans won't dare to act rashly, Xiong Meng said with a smile. Who's in charge of Duhu City now? Xiao Lingyu asked again. Of course it's the city lord's mansion shopkeeper. By the way, the city lord came from a high-level city, so he must be very powerful. All the clans in Duhu City have to obey the city lord's mansion's orders. Anyone who dares to provoke the city lord's mansion won't have a good ending. If it weren't for the city lord's mansion's restrictions, all the clans would have already started fighting. Even if they didn't fight, they wouldn't let us off so easily, Zhang Hai added. Isn't fighting prohibited in the city? Xiao Lingyu asked. It was her first time in Duhu City, so there were some things she needed to know before entering the city. There's a special duel arena in the city. If you want to fight or seek revenge, you can go there. Of course, your opponent has to be willing to go there as well. Other than the duel arena, fighting is not allowed. However, there are many people who will fight if they're pushed too far. There's a rule in the city that if someone provokes someone, the person who provoked them can fight back. Of course, there has to be someone who can prove it, Xiong Meng said. It was time for the 6 of them to enter the city. Duhu City was the same as Kun City. They had to pay a fee to enter the city. There were probably some detection restrictions and formations in the city, but the fee to enter Duhu City was 3 times higher than that of Kun City. Fortunately, it was still within the range of ordinary cultivators. Xiong Meng paid the fee for the 6 of them for a month before they entered the city. Compared to Kun City, Duhu City's streets were much wider and the buildings on both sides of the streets were much taller and grander. This was similar to Xiao Lingyu's time on Earth. A county city could not be compared to a city, much less a provincial city. As the only mid-tier city within a radius of a few 100 million li, the city was bustling with activity. Even though the streets were wide, the pedestrians were sweating profusely. No matter how fast one moved, one had to patiently follow the flow of people. If one walked too fast, one would not be able to avoid friction with others. Xiaolingyu and the others did not like to cause trouble. They walked very slowly and patiently. It was Xiaolingyu's first time in Du City, and it was also his first time witnessing the splendor of an intermediate city in the realm of the gods. He did not mind walking slowly because he was curious about this unfamiliar city. They did not encounter any obstacles along the way, but it took them close to 3 days before Xiongmeng stopped in front of a tall stone tablet at the intersection of the streets. This stone tablet was used by cultivators to issue missions. Other than being slightly taller than the mission stone tablet in Quin City, it was not much different. Xiongmeng stood in front of the stone tablet for a long time. Then, he suddenly shot out a ray of divine light and dispersed a mission that appeared on the stone tablet. Then, they waited for the employer to come over. Seeing that they were about to receive a reward, everyone's expression was very relaxed and happy. After waiting for close to 20 hours, someone finally shouted from below the stone tablet, "Who completed the mission of the Tiger Ape Beast?" Everyone had been waiting anxiously and impatiently, but when they heard the shout, their eyes immediately lit up. Xiongmeng and the other 3 quickly went over. Xiaolingyu and Miss Jing, on the other hand, weren't in a hurry and still stood where they were. "It's us," Xiongmeng said. "Let me take a look at the Tiger Ape Beast." The person who came was a slightly chubby cultivator with a mole on his cheek. Although he was not very good-looking, his expression was very arrogant. However, there were 2 attendants behind him. Both of them were women, and both of them looked very coquettish. The 2 female attendants only wore a leather breastplate, exposing their lower abdomens and navels. Below, they only wore a leather skirt that only covered half of their thighs, allowing people to see their snow-white and elastic long legs. Xiongmeng immediately handed a storage pouch to the chubby cultivator. Unexpectedly, after the chubby cultivator looked at it, he frowned and said coldly, "How is this a divine monarch tiger ape beast? It's clearly an ape demon that hasn't even reached the heavenly deity stage. You dare to deceive this young master? Are you tired of living?" When Xiongmeng and the others heard this, they all frowned. The fat cultivator had already returned the storage pouch to Xiongmeng. Xiongmeng's spiritual sense entered the pouch to take a look and was shocked. This storage pouch did indeed contain the tiger ape beast that had been killed, but now there was only a demonic ape monkey that had not even reached the heavenly deity stage. What was going on? Xiongmeng was stunned. Ma Chun, Ma Qiu, and Zhang Hai also looked at Xiongmeng in confusion. Xiaolingyu was also very confused. However, Miss Jing walked over, and he also followed. "Young master, you just swapped the storage pouch. Although your technique was good, and you were very fast, and you hit it well, you couldn't fool my eyes." Miss Jing's words were shocking. So that's how it is. Xiongmeng and the others immediately understood and glared at the chubby cultivator. "Ha, little girl, your appearance is not bad, but don't slander me. You say I swapped the pouch, but do you have proof?" The chubby cultivator asked with a smile. "I saw it with my own eyes." "You still want to deny it?" Miss Jing insisted. "Ha, so there's no proof? If there's no proof, then be careful with your words." As the chubby cultivator spoke, he actually reached out his chubby hand and successfully touched Miss Jing's chin. "Little girl, there's no future in following them. Why don't you follow me? I'll take you to enjoy life." At this moment, Xiongmeng slapped the chubby cultivator's hand away. He angrily said, "Keep your hand to yourself. You actually hit me." The chubby cultivator shouted loudly. Then he continued to shout, "Everyone saw it, right? He attacked me first. I didn't provoke him." This was the intersection, and there were many passers-by. When they heard the commotion, many people immediately gathered around. Chapter 545. "Oh ho, you're really going all out, aren't you?" The fat cultivator rolled up his sleeves and pinched his fat waist with one hand while pointing at Xiong Meng with the other. Do you dare fight me in the arena? That's exactly what I was thinking. Xiong Meng raised his head. Don't be rash. Miss Jing suddenly pulled Xiong Meng's arm and reminded him through voice transmission, he's not as simple as he looks. The fat cultivator's cultivation wasn't high. He looked like he was only at the peak of mid-heavenly god, but the two maids behind him were late heavenly gods. Xiong Meng was a late heavenly god, so he naturally wouldn't fear a one-on-one battle with the fat cultivator. Xiong Meng wanted to fight so he could teach the fat cultivator a lesson in the arena. Xiaoling Yu also found it very strange. The fat cultivator's cultivation was low, so he shouldn't have taken the initiative to invite Xiong Meng to a duel. Moreover, Xiong Meng had clearly made the first move. According to the city's rules, the fat cultivator could have had his two maids attack Xiong Meng, but he didn't choose to do so. The fat cultivator swaggered as he walked and even had two late heavenly god maids with him. He was clearly someone with a background. Even if he caused trouble in the city, he wouldn't necessarily be punished severely by the city lord's estate. Why would he want to duel someone whose cultivation was higher than his under such circumstances? Xiaoling Yu immediately thought of a possibility. The fat cultivator thought he could easily defeat Xiong Meng. However, Xiaoling Yu felt that this was too inconceivable. The fat cultivator looked like a mediocre and incompetent person at first glance. Moreover, he was greedy and lecherous. He didn't look like a hidden expert at all. How could he have the ability to challenge someone of a higher cultivation level? Xiong Meng probably had the same idea as Xiaoling Yu, so he accepted the fat cultivator's invitation without hesitation. He didn't care too much about Miss Jing's reminder. The dueling arena of Duhu City was right in front of the city lord's estate. Although it was called a dueling arena, it was more like a high platform with a width of 300 meters. There was a rather large plaza in front of the city lord's estate. The dueling arena was right in the center of the plaza. Usually, there would be a lot of people in this square. If there was a duel, the entire square would be packed. Even in the immoral realm, there were many bored cultivators who liked to watch a show. This was especially true for this kind of exciting show that did not have the slightest risk. This kind of duel that both sides were willing to have, the city guards would also come to watch. They surrounded the duel arena with solemn expressions, not allowing a third party to intervene. Although it was a duel, it was only to determine the winner and loser, and it did not necessarily have to be a life-and-death struggle. However, the duel arena was indeed the only place in the city where killing was permitted. In most cases, those who came to participate in the duel would most likely lose their lives as long as they lost. It was supposed to be a commission. How did it turn into a duel? Xiaoling Yu smiled bitterly as she looked at Xiong Meng, who had already entered the arena. That fatty must have done it on purpose. He touched my chin just now to divert everyone's attention, Miss Jing analyzed calmly. That fatty is really hateful. I hope boss can beat him up, Zhang Hai said angrily. Xiong Meng, who was on the stage, had also calmed down a little. However, he had already entered the duel arena. It was impossible for him to leave the stage now. After muttering to himself for a moment, he said to the fat cultivator with a smile, "We can't fight for nothing. If you lose, I don't want your life. I only have two conditions. First, pay us the commission of 100,000 high-grade divine stones. Second, apologize to us." The fat cultivator waved his hand and said, "You're wrong. When did I owe you a commission? You didn't complete the mission and used fake goods to deceive me. You still have the nerve to ask for a commission? I also don't want to take your life in the duel. Let's bet 100,000 high-grade divine stones. The loser has to give the winner 100,000 high-grade divine stones." Xiong Meng hesitated for a moment, but still nodded in agreement. He still felt that he could win. 100,000 high-grade divine stones? Where do we get so many divine stones? Ma Chun said in surprise. Shut up, boss won't lose to this damn fatty. Zhang Hai said confidently. Sigh. Miss Jing sighed at this moment. The calculations on the stage had already been completed. After the two sides bowed to each other, Xiong Meng took up his stance and raised his aura. However, the fat cultivator was still standing there with a smile on his face. He didn't move at all, and the aura around his body didn't start to surge either. Beat him up. Beat him up. Let's bet, let's bet. The more you buy, the more you lose, this opportunity cannot be missed. I bet on that brawny man to win, 1,000 high-grade divine stones. I bet on the fatty to win, 500 high-grade divine stones. The crowd below the stage was also jubilant, and there were even gamblers who started the betting. Xiaoling Yu looked at Miss Jing's knitted brows, then looked at the fat cultivator's two attendants, Goddess Ding Qixien. He walked towards the gambling house and said, I bet on that fatty to win, 50,000 high-grade divine stones. Although 50,000 high-grade divine stones wasn't a small amount, the dealer should be rich and didn't back down from Xiaoling Yu's bet. Senior Xiao, how can you bet on that damn fatty to win? Zhang Hai asked. Just in case. Xiaoling Yu replied with a smile. What do you mean? Zhang Hai was puzzled. The duel has begun. Let's watch the duel first. Xiaoling Yu pointed at the stage and said. Miss Jing looked at Xiaoling Yu meaningfully, but didn't say anything. She knew what Xiaoling Yu meant by just in case. Xiaoling Yu bet 50,000 high-grade divine stones. If Xiong Meng won, even if Xiaoling Yu lost the 50,000 high-grade divine stones, Xiong Meng would win 100,000 high-grade divine stones. However, if Xiong Meng lost, Xiaoling Yu would win 50,000 high-grade divine stones. Together with the 50,000 high-grade divine stones, he could use it to fulfill the bet. Xiaoling Yu loathed people like the fat cultivator, but Xiong Meng and the others had left a good impression on Xiaoling Yu. He didn't mind helping Xiong Meng and the others. As for the divine stones, they were just a number to him. It wouldn't be difficult for him to earn them now. On the stage, the first to attack was Xiong Meng, because the fat cultivator was standing there and laughing. Although Xiong Meng looked like a strong man, his speed wasn't slow. After he shouted, he stomped on the ground and his body instantly appeared in front of the fat cultivator. The divine saber in his hand fiercely chopped towards the fat cultivator's head. The fat cultivator still had a smile on his face even as the large saber approached. But to everyone's surprise, just as the divine saber was about to land on the fat cultivator's head, it suddenly changed direction and slashed down on the fat cultivator's left shoulder. What made everyone even more surprised was that Xiong Meng, who was the one who attacked fiercely, was actually sent flying when the divine saber fell. No one saw it clearly, but Xiaoling Yu saw it clearly. The reason why Xiong Meng's divine saber had deviated was because the fat cultivator had quickly slapped the divine saber with his palm. However, the speed of that palm was simply too fast. If one wasn't a divine monarch expert, they wouldn't be able to see it clearly. The reason Xiong Meng's body was sent flying was because the fat cultivator kicked Xiong Meng's lower abdomen when he attacked the divine saber. In the eyes of ordinary people, the fat cultivator didn't move at all, so many of the spectators were very surprised. No way, this is too fake, right? Is he purposely throwing the match to cheat our divine stones? The cultivators who bet on Xiong Meng's victory were unwilling, and they all shouted that this was a fake match. Xiong Meng was a late heavenly god expert after all, so after being kicked, his body flew back a few meters before stabilizing again. Although the fat cultivator's movements were very fast, making Xiong Meng unable to catch him, his strength wasn't very strong. At least, that kick didn't really hurt Xiong Meng. Judging from the strength of that kick, the fat cultivator was indeed a mid-heavenly god. I must be too careless. Xiong Meng was also a veteran, so he quickly stabilized his body and then charged towards the fat cultivator again. But this time, when Xiong Meng was about to reach the fat cultivator, his body suddenly flashed and he came to the left side of the fat cultivator and slashed with his divine saber. Although Xiong Meng had changed his attack this time, the result was still shocking. Before he could slash horizontally, the fat cultivator had already leaped high into the air, and just as his divine blade swept past the fat cultivator's previous position, the fat cultivator had already fallen down, and even landed behind him. Xiong Meng's rich battle experience told him that danger would come from behind. Therefore, he didn't even think about it as he rushed forward for more than 30 meters. Xiong Meng's reaction was quite timely because in Xiaolingyu's eyes, the fat cultivator had indeed slapped Xiong Meng's back. But in the eyes of ordinary cultivators, the fat cultivator had only jumped up and quickly landed without any other actions. But even ordinary cultivators could feel that the fat cultivator's speed was indeed a bit strange and ridiculous. I'm afraid Xiong Meng is going to lose. Miss Jing couldn't help but shake her head. Zhang Hai, Ma Chun, and Ma Qiu weren't people with bad eyesight. They could also see that their boss didn't have any advantage apart from having a higher cultivation level. The fat cultivator's speed and reaction were too fast. No matter how strong Xiong Meng's attack was, it would be very difficult for him to hit the fat cultivator. The fat cultivator was already in an undefeatable position. Xiong Meng seemed to have realized this and didn't continue to attack. Instead, he took out his large iron shield and prepared to defend with all his might. Sigh, he really lost. Seeing Xiong Meng take out his shield, Miss Jing sighed. Xiaolingyu also knew that Xiong Meng would lose without a doubt. If Xiong Meng dared to attack and changed his attack, he might have a chance to win if he could only hit the fat cultivator once. However, he was now in a defensive position, allowing the fat cultivator to attack. In reality, it was more dangerous and more stressful. Of course, even if Xiong Meng chose to continue attacking, he would most likely lose. Chapter 546. From the beginning to the end, the fat cultivator did not use any magic treasures, and Xiong Meng did not have any obvious injuries, but Xiong Meng was still defeated. Moreover, he was defeated very thoroughly, because he did not even touch the corner of his opponent's clothes. Although Xiong Meng's face was filled with unwillingness, he was actually convinced of his loss. After falling off the stage, Xiong Meng was surrounded by a group of city guards. If he did not honor his bet, the city guards would not let him leave. Thank you for letting me win. The fat cultivator who was still standing on the stage cupped his hands into fists and said with a humble smile, 100,000 high-grade divine stones is not a small amount. If you can't take it out, then obediently follow behind me and work for me in the future. You can leave when you have enough divine stones. Although Xiong Meng had a straightforward personality, he could only put on a troubled expression. He knew that his team could not take out 100,000 high-grade divine stones. At this moment, Xiaolingyu went to the side of the gambling house and received 100,000 high-grade divine stones with interest. She handed it over to Zhang Hai. Zhang Hai knew what this meant. He first bowed to Xiaolingyu with a face full of gratitude. Then, he ran to a cultivator who seemed to be the leader of the city guards and handed over the storage bag containing 100,000 high-grade divine stones. The leader of the city guards glanced at the storage bag and nodded. Not bad, there are indeed 100,000 high-grade divine stones inside. Then, the leader of the city guards threw the storage bag to the fat cultivator on the stage. The fat cultivator caught the storage bag and his fat face trembled with laughter. After he got off the stage, he handed another storage bag to the leader of the city guards and said with a smile, "Thank you for your trouble, brothers. Take these for your brothers to drink and drink tea. Brothers, thank you for the reward." The leader of the city guards looked at the number of divine stones in the storage bag and revealed a satisfied expression. He then shouted to the city guards under him, "Thank you for the reward." The group of city guards who had surrounded the arena earlier chanted loudly together. They dispersed the encirclement and released Xiong Meng. "Thank you for saving me, senior." Xiong Meng knew that it was Xiaolingyu who gave the divine stones, so he sincerely thanked her. "Senior Xiao, can you teach this fatty a lesson?" Zhang Hai asked. The few of them really couldn't take this lying down, but their boss had already been defeated. If they went up, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Xiaolingyu looked at Miss Jing. Seeing that she didn't nod or shake her head, Xiaolingyu smiled at Zhang Hai and shook her head. To be honest, Xiaoling Yu really wanted to teach the fatty a lesson, but this matter had little to do with him. Furthermore, he did not want to cause unnecessary trouble when he had just arrived at Duwu City. Most importantly, he had no reason to duel with the fatty, and the fatty would not be willing to duel with a monarch god. Xiaoling Yu could endure it, but Miss Jing couldn't. She walked up to the fat cultivator with a calm expression and asked in a provocative tone, "Do you dare to fight with me?" The fat cultivator looked at Miss Jing with a smile. "Of course, why wouldn't I? I'm just afraid that I'll hurt you. Come up if you dare." Miss Jing wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with the fat cultivator. She flew directly into the arena. "Miss Jing, come down quickly." Zhang Hai anxiously called out. "Miss Jing, don't be rash." Xiong Meng also advised. Everyone had seen how powerful the fat cultivator was. It was obvious that they had no confidence in Miss Jing's victory. "Let her try. I think she can win," Xiaoling Yu said. "Senior Xiao, it's fine if you don't go up, but how can you let Miss Jing fight?" Zhang Hai said unhappily. "She's not a reckless person. Since she dares to go up, she naturally has the confidence to win," Xiaoling Yu calmly replied. At this moment, the fat cultivator also jumped onto the arena. "Do you want to bet something as well?" "Up to you," Miss Jing said calmly. "If I win, you'll follow me from now on. If I lose, not only will I return the 100,000 high-grade divine stones I just won, but I'll also give you another 100,000 high-grade divine stones. How about it?" The fat cultivator said confidently. "All right." Miss Jing nodded. "If you lose, you have to shout 'I'm a pig' 3 times in front of everyone." The fat cultivator's smiling face immediately darkened. The fat on his face also twitched a few times. While the fat cultivator's expression changed, another bet was placed below the arena. "If you believe me, then bet everything you have on Miss Jing's victory." Xiaoling Yu took the lead and walked over to the betting table. He placed all the godstones in his storage ring on Miss Jing's victory. Xiong Meng and the others didn't hesitate for long. Like Xiaoling Yu, they also placed all their bets. Xiaoling Yu felt that Miss Jing would win for 2 reasons. First, he'd already seen that Miss Jing wasn't simple. Second, it was his intuition. Miss Jing wasn't an impulsive person. After seeing the fat cultivator in Xiong Meng's battle, she still dared to enter the arena and accept the bet. This proved that she was confident in her victory. However, the spectators didn't know Miss Jing well. They'd just witnessed the fat cultivator's strength and naturally felt that he would win. They also placed large amounts of divine stones on the fat cultivator. Many cultivators were like Xiaoling Yu before. Judging from Miss Jing's aura and aura, she was only in the heavenly deity stage. However, Xiong Meng, who'd just become a late-stage heavenly deity, had easily lost to the fat cultivator. It was hard for them to raise their confidence in Miss Jing's victory. Many of them had placed their bets on Xiong Meng. This time, they were going to take back their capital and interest. On the arena, the fat cultivator's expression changed again and again. Finally, he said, "All right, since you're so interested, I'll play with you." The battle began. This time, the fat cultivator's expression was more cautious. He wasn't as relaxed as he'd been when he'd faced Xiong Meng. The fat cultivator sensed that this quiet girl was only in the heavenly deity stage. "As long as you're in the heavenly deity stage, don't even think about beating me. See how I'll torture you after this battle." The fat cultivator thought angrily as he began to move. His eyes narrowed into slits, ready to attack at any moment. This time, it was Miss Jing's turn to stand still. Although she wasn't smiling, there wasn't the slightest trace of fear on her face. After circling around Miss Jing, the fat cultivator finally couldn't help but attack. His body flashed, leaving behind an afterimage. In the next moment, he was next to Miss Jing. His meaty hand directly reached for her breasts. Miss Jing still didn't move. However, when the fat cultivator's hand was about to touch her body, a dazzling ring of light suddenly flashed. Then, a small flower vine suddenly appeared from the colorful ring of light, completely binding the fat cultivator's hand. The fat cultivator's hand couldn't move forward anymore. However, the vine wasn't formed by a powerful spell. He only needed to circulate his cultivation to shatter the vine. But when the fat cultivator was about to change his move, the dazzling ring of light around Miss Jing suddenly exploded. Then, countless flower petals enveloped the arena. Those flower petals expanded and split apart. In an instant, the arena had become a world of flowers. The fat cultivator frowned slightly. No matter how he moved, he would touch the flower petals. However, the flower petals had a certain amount of energy that could make it difficult for him to move forward. This made it difficult for him to display his speed advantage. Then, more and more green vines appeared. They were like poisonous snakes, wriggling their bodies as they pounced at the fat cultivator. Whether it was the flower petals or the green vines, they were all formed by a spell. Although the spell wasn't very powerful, it was very useful at this time. It was as if they had grown eyes. Wherever the fat cultivator moved, they would squeeze there. The fat cultivator couldn't get close to Miss Jing at all. The green vines, which were like vipers, sometimes shot at the fat cultivator like arrows, sometimes lashed at him like whips. Occasionally, the petals would explode around the fat cultivator, creating dazzling lights that could interfere with his vision and spiritual sense. The fat cultivator felt that he was not in a world of flowers, but in a swamp. Before the fat cultivator could think of a way, his legs were suddenly bound by two green vines. Just as he felt that something was wrong, he lost his balance and was thrown off the stage by the two green vines. All the spectators were dumbfounded, including Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu had expected Miss Jing to win, but he didn't expect it to be so simple. Miss Jing didn't use any big moves, nor did she use any high-grade magic treasures. She only relied on these seemingly ordinary spells to win. After the fat cultivator fell off the stage, he was also surrounded by the city guards. The city guards didn't let him go just because he had taken benefits from him. This was a rule set by the city lord's mansion. No one could break or ignore it. Good! Xiong Meng cheered loudly. Good, 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 Zhang Hai and the others echoed. Even the spectators were the same. Only the cultivators who'd bet on the fat cultivator's victory were cursing him inwardly for being useless. It's time to collect the money. Xiaoling Yu reminded them with a smile and walked to the betting table. The dealer was very happy because most people had bet on the fat cultivator's victory. The divine stones that Xiaoling Yu and the others had won were only a small part of the total. I'm a pig. I'm a pig. I'm a pig. As soon as they received the divine stones, Xiaoling Yu and the others heard the fat cultivator's mournful cries. Haha, all the cultivators laughed, including the ones who'd lost their divine stones. The fat cultivator had caused them to lose their divine stones. Now that the fat cultivator was shouting that he was a pig, they felt a lot better. Xiaoling Yu and the others smiled knowingly. Meanwhile, Miss Jing took out a storage pouch and handed it to Xiaoling Yu. There are 160,000 high-grade divine stones in here. 100,000 of them are the ones we borrowed from before. 60,000 are the rewards we promised Brother Xiao. Xiaoling Yu didn't pretend to refuse and accepted the storage pouch without hesitation. Please wait a moment. Chapter 547. Xiong Meng and the others stopped. Xiong Meng asked, "What? You're not convinced?" Haha, I, Guanjun, am not a petty person. Since I dared to go on stage, I'm naturally not afraid of losing. The fat cultivator laughed. However, the fat on his face jiggled as he spoke, making it hard for others to have a good impression of him. Then why did you stop us? Xiong Meng asked again. His expression wasn't very friendly. Although their group didn't suffer any losses because of Miss Jing's amazing performance, it was true that the fat cultivator had stolen their tiger-ape beasts. I want to invite you all to join our mercenary group. Our group has just been established and we're lacking in experts like you. Of course, although we haven't been established for long, our overall strength is still very strong. The fat cultivators seem to be sincere. How does your mercenary group compare to the Tianchi Iron Armor Squad? Zhang Hai interrupted. We can't compare to the Tianchi Iron Armor Squad at the moment. However, the Tianchi Iron Armor Squad is only supported by a God King. If we have a God King, we definitely won't lose out to them. The fat cultivator shook his head, but his tone was filled with confidence. Sorry, we're not interested in your mercenary group. We're even more suspicious of your character. Goodbye. Xiong Meng bluntly rejected the fat cultivator Guanjun's invitation and then led everyone out of the square. The fat cultivator narrowed his eyes as he watched Xiong Meng and the others leave. After a while, he said to the two maids behind him, "Keep an eye on them and investigate them." After leaving the plaza, Zhang Hai praised Miss Jing. "I really didn't expect Miss Jing to be so powerful." "Haha, it's not that I'm powerful. It's just that my magic arts happen to be able to restrain him." Miss Jing smiled modestly. "Let's find a place to celebrate," Zhang Hai happily suggested. "Okay." Ma Chun and Ma Chiu both agreed. Xiong Meng hesitated before saying generously, "Although our group's expenses are tight, since everyone is happy today, let's go to the VIP building." VIP building? Boss, the expenses there aren't suitable for us. Ma Chun was surprised. You should know that our goal is to become a powerful mercenary group like the Tianchi Iron Armor Squad. What's so bad about going to a VIP building? Although we're a little weak right now, we should cultivate the temperament of a big shot, Zhang Hai said nonchalantly. The environment in the VIP building is pretty good, Miss Jing said noncommittally. Listening to Miss Jing's words, it seemed that she was also in favor of going to the VIP building. Naturally, no one had any objections and happily headed to the VIP building. Although they had already decided where to go, Duhu City was simply too big and there were too many people on the streets. It took them a full 8 hours to reach the VIP building. The VIP building had 3 floors, but each floor seemed to be at least 60 feet high. The floor area was also very wide, and the signboard of this restaurant seemed to have been inscribed by a powerful figure. On the way here, Xiong Meng and the others had told Xiaoling Yu about the background of the VIP tower. It was said that there were VIP towers in the main cities of the realm of the gods. The VIP tower was famous, so its business was naturally very good. The entire first floor was several hundred feet long and had a few hundred tables, but they were all full. "Dear guests, why don't we go to the second floor? There are empty tables on the second floor, and they're even more spacious," the waiter said. Just on the first floor alone, there were no less than 30 waiters, and all of them looked very busy. "And, let's go to the second floor." Xiong Meng didn't hesitate at all and directly led everyone to the stairs. The second floor wasn't smaller than the first floor, but there weren't as many tables as the first floor. There were only a few hundred tables and a dozen or so private rooms separated by screens. "Would you like an ordinary table or a private room?" the waiter asked politely. "Just an ordinary table." This time, it was Miss Jing who answered. After answering, she took the initiative to walk to an empty table. The table by the window had already been taken by other guests, and Miss Jing chose a table that was practically in the center of the second floor. Now that they were in the VIP tower, it was already good enough to have a table. Since Miss Jing didn't have any objections to where she sat, Xiong Meng and the other rough men naturally wouldn't be picky. "Dear guests, what would you like to order?" the waiter asked as he put a menu on the table. "Senior Xiao, please order," Xiong Meng said politely as he pushed the menu to Xiaoling Yu. "You guys order." "I'm fine with anything," Xiaoling Yu said calmly. "I'll order." Miss Jing moved the menu in front of her. She only glanced at it twice before ordering 6 dishes and a soup as if she was very familiar with them. After closing the menu, Miss Jing added, 1 jug of 100,000-year-old hanging pearl wine." "Just 1 jug?" the waiter asked. "2 jugs." Zhang Hai said without thinking, as if 1 jug was too little. "Okay." Please wait a moment. The wine and dishes will be delivered in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. The waiter immediately trotted over. Have you ever drunk hanging pearl wine? Miss Jing asked Zhang Hai. No. Zhang Hai shook his head. Xiong Meng slapped the back of Zhang Hai's head and scolded, if you haven't, then what are you shouting for? Aren't we here to have fun? We can't let the waiter look down on us, right? Zhang Hai said in a reasonable tone. You'll know after you drink it, Miss Jing said with a smile. However, before the food and wine were delivered, the fat cultivator, Guan Jun, walked over with his 2 female attendants and a skinny middle-aged cultivator. Guan Jun and the others sat down and greeted them with a smile. I didn't expect you guys to be here too. What a coincidence. Xiong Meng and the others only glanced at Guan Jun and ignored him. Zhang Hai directly said, how about we change seats? Looking at him makes me lose my appetite. Miss Jing shook her head and said, once you sit down and order, you can't casually change seats. She seemed to be very familiar with the VIP restaurant. From the curious expressions on Xiong Meng and the rest's faces, Xiaoling Yu could tell that it was their first time in the VIP building. This made Xiaoling Yu curious about Miss Jing. However, Xiaoling Yu was only curious. He accompanied these good-natured cultivators for a bit longer and prepared to leave after leaving the VIP restaurant. These juniors don't know what's good for them. Guan Jun's enthusiasm didn't receive a response. The skinny middle-aged cultivator next to him snorted with dissatisfaction. Third uncle, I think they're not bad, especially that girl. She's very clever. I lost to her just now. Guan Jun transmitted his voice. If you put more effort into cultivation, how could you lose to a little heavenly deity girl? Third uncle transmitted his voice back. When I lost, I was forced to shout I'm a pig 3 times in front of countless people. Guan Jun said with grievance. Pa. What? They've gone too far. Third uncle slammed his hand on the table and said angrily. However, although he was angry, he didn't make a lot of noise when he slammed the table or spoke. Not just anyone dared to throw a tantrum in the VIP restaurant, even if this skinny cultivator didn't look weak. I had no choice but to ask third uncle to come. The fat cultivator Guan Jun said helplessly as he pushed the menu the waiter put down to third uncle. You want third uncle to vent your anger for you, right? Third uncle took the menu and transmitted his voice. Third uncle loves me the most. I won't watch you get bullied. Guan Jun smiled flatteringly. This isn't easy. First, we're in the city. Second, third uncle may not be able to win alone. The skinny cultivator replied. That can't be. Third uncle is a divine monarch expert. They're just heavenly deities. Even if they have some special techniques, they can't possibly be your match. Guan Jun said in disbelief. Do you see that calm young man sitting across from the little girl? If I'm not wrong, he's very likely a divine monarch expert. Third uncle replied. Then, the third uncle began to order. Guan Jun, on the other hand, looked at Xiaoling Yu in surprise. At this time, the food and wine ordered by Xiaoling Yu's table had already been served. They were not affected by the fat cultivator and continued to eat their own food. The VIP restaurant's dishes were indeed delicious. It was no wonder their business was so good. Although Xiaoling Yu didn't have high standards for food and drink, he couldn't help but show a satisfied expression when the dishes entered his mouth. Zhang Hai was more diligent. After eating 2 mouthfuls, he opened a pot of profound pearl wine and poured wine for everyone. When the wine fell into the cup, many water droplets would naturally appear. However, the water droplets in ordinary wine would quickly disappear, but the water droplets in the profound pearl wine were always there. Moreover, they were slowly floating in the cup. It looked very novel. This wine has to be drunk slowly to have the taste. After Miss Jing reminded everyone, she picked up her wine cup and brought it to her lips to take a sip. Zhang Hai was impatient and wasn't an obedient person. Everyone listened to Miss Jing's reminder and drank slowly, but he directly drank a big mouthful. In Zhang Hai's opinion, wine that had been aged for 100,000 years usually didn't have a strong alcohol content. But what Zhang Hai didn't expect was that after the wine entered his mouth, the wine droplets kept jumping in his mouth. Moreover, when they touched his lips and tongue, they would create waves of numbness. If he drank slowly, there wouldn't be many wine droplets in a small sip and it would only give him a wonderful feeling. However, when Zhang Hai gulped down the wine droplets, his mouth was full of wine droplets. He immediately lost feeling in his mouth and his head couldn't help but shake. Miss Jing and the others all laughed at this moment. The wine that had been aged for 100,000 years indeed didn't have a strong alcohol content. At least, Xiaoling Yu didn't feel anything strange after drinking it. However, the wine droplets still jumping in his stomach was a wonderful enjoyment. After the wine was digested, the wine droplets scattered into wine droplets. Xiaoling Yu felt that the wine tasted similar to the fruit wine he had drunk before. Guanjun's table was also served with food and wine. Guanjun sent a sound transmission to his third uncle and said, "That fellow doesn't look like a divine lord powerhouse." Chapter 548. Although Fatty Guanjun was skeptical, he still carried the wine pot to Xiaoling Yu's table. As the saying goes, no discord, no concord. When we fought in the duel arena, we both won and lost. Fortunately, none of us were injured. It is fate that brought us together, so I propose a toast to all of you. After Guanjun finished speaking, he drained his cup to the brim. However, Xiong Meng and the others only glanced at Guanjun, but no one responded. Naturally, no one raised their cups. Guanjun's expression was slightly awkward. After a moment of silence, he said, "If you can do me the honor, I will treat everyone to a meal at your table today." TCH. Zhang Hai didn't appreciate it, and the other three male cultivators were the same. Since someone is treating, why don't we give face? Miss Jing, however, smiled. She picked up her cup of hanging pearl wine and took a sip. Although Xiong Meng and the others were unwilling, they still raised their cups. But after drinking a cup, Zhang Hai suddenly said with a smirk, "I think we should add some wine and dishes." The so-called "add some wine and dishes" naturally meant that he wanted to rip Guanjun off. "Brother, you have an imposing appearance and a steady aura. You must be an expert. Come, let me propose a toast to you." The fat cultivator circled to the front of Xiaoling Yu, and once again, he drained it to show his respect. After finishing his cup, Guanjun filled Xiaoling Yu's cup with wine from his wine pot. It seemed that he wanted Xiaoling Yu to drink his wine. "I'll drink this." Xiaoling Yu pointed at the cup of wine and said calmly. Guanjun shook his head and said, "The taste of this wine is indeed wonderful, but it doesn't have any alcohol strength. It's a wine for women. It's not good to drink it. My wine is strong and strong. It's more suitable for men like us." Xiaoling Yu smiled and nodded. Then, he slowly raised the wine cup that Guanjun had filled to the brim. In the process of bringing the cup to his mouth, he had already confirmed that there was no problem with the wine, so he very generously drank it in one gulp. Then, Guanjun toasted everyone present. But to Xiaoling Yu's surprise, Guanjun sat next to him and kept clinking cups with him. Is he going to compete with me in drinking? Xiaoling Yu was a little puzzled. After all, he didn't have any interaction with Guanjun. Why did Guanjun not look for Xiong Meng or Miss Jing but came to him? Although he didn't understand, Xiaoling Yu wasn't afraid of competing with others in drinking. Once the wine entered his stomach, he would wrap it with his chaotic divine power so that it couldn't dissipate. Xiong Meng and the others were thinking about what to add to the wine and dishes, so they didn't care about Xiaoling Yu and Guanjun's drinking competition. In fact, they were happy that Guanjun wanted to compete with Xiaoling Yu because they knew that Xiaoling Yu was a divine monarch expert. He wouldn't be drunk by a middle-stage divine god cultivator. What surprised Xiaoling Yu was that the thin cultivator who came with Guanjun was also staring at him, as if trying to find his weakness. In fact, Xiaoling Yu had already noticed that this thin cultivator was a divine lord powerhouse. Since he was being targeted by a divine lord powerhouse, he naturally had to be a bit more cautious. This damned fatty must have been sent by the skinny cultivator to test my strength. Although Shaolin Yu was aware of this, he didn't end the drinking competition. Instead, he took the initiative to drink with Guan Jun. As more and more wine was poured, Guan Jun's face turned red, and so did Shaolin Yu. However, Guan Jun's drunkenness was real, but Shaolin Yu's was fake. Guan Jun's state naturally couldn't be hidden from Shaolin Yu's eyes. Shaolin Yu kept pretending that he was in the same state as Guan Jun. Not long after, Shaolin Yu pretended to be drunk and collapsed on the table. Guan Jun pointed at Shaolin Yu and laughed foolishly a few times, then fell down with a plop. The drinking competition was obviously over, but the result was that Shaolin Yu and Guan Jun were evenly matched. The pot of wine that Guan Jun brought, as well as the wine that he ordered from the waiter, were all of the stronger varieties. Ordinary divine monarchs couldn't drink too much of it. Xiong Meng and the others had already expected Guan Jun to be drunk, but they never thought that Shaolin Yu would be the first to fall. Miss Jing frowned as she looked at Shaolin Yu. Then she shook her head and sighed. He rarely drinks such strong alcohol in the past. I'm afraid he'll be drunk for a while before he wakes up. The thin cultivator who had been watching from the side thought, did I see wrongly? Go and carry the young master back to rest. The thin cultivator instructed the two maids. The two maids did as they were told and carried the fat cultivator, Guan Jun. But just as they were about to leave, Zhang Hai suddenly said, Your fat young master said that he'll pay for this table. Waiter, come here. The skinny cultivator shouted. When a waiter who was free came over, he said, How much is it for these 2 tables? The waiter took out an account book, glanced at it, and said, It's a total of 30,000 high-grade divine stones. No way? So much? Zhang Hai and the others who weren't drunk were very surprised. Because Guan Jun said that he would treat them, they didn't look at the price when ordering. The thin cultivator was a divine monarch expert, so he naturally didn't care about tens of thousands of high-grade divine stones. He casually threw a storage bag on the table and went downstairs. The waiter had already scanned the storage bag with his divine sense and put it away with satisfaction. He estimated that the divine stones inside were enough to pay the bill. Shaolin Yu was already drunk on the table, and Xiong Meng and the others were also full. Naturally, they didn't continue to stay. Ma Chun and Ma Chiu carried Shaolin Yu, and everyone left the VIP building. Where are we going? Zhang Hai asked. Let's go to the opposite side and get a few rooms to rest. Xiong Meng pointed at a shop opposite and said. In the cities of the Celestial Realm, there were many inn-like shops. These shops only provided side rooms and quiet rooms for drunken cultivators or cultivators who needed to meditate and cultivate in the city. Generally, they charged a fixed fee, but the fee was generally not too expensive. After choosing a few quiet rooms adjacent to each other, Shaolin Yu was placed on a wooden bed by Ma Chun. Then, Xiong Meng and the others went to their own rooms, leaving only Ma Chun at Shaolin Yu's bedside. Ma Chun also drank wine. He also needed to meditate to refine the wine. After drinking a lot of wine, the cultivators were in a bad state and were not suitable to do other things. 4 hours later, Shaolin Yu, who was lying on the bed and silently refining the wine, suddenly smelled a fragrance. Then, she felt that her consciousness was in a trance. Ma Chun, who was meditating at the head of the bed, directly fell on the bed. Not good. Could it be the sleeping incense? Shaolin Yu was shocked. Just as he was about to get up, his divine sense detected a familiar figure outside the door. He immediately dismissed the impulse to get up and pretended to be unconscious from the sleeping incense. A moment later, the figure pushed open the door. The person who came was none other than Miss Jing, who Shaolin Yu had been very curious and suspicious about. What is she doing here? Why did she drug us before coming in? Shaolin Yu was secretly on guard as he pondered. The sleeping incense was very strong. If it wasn't for the gray-black metal piece in Shaolin Yu's golden soul pearl absorbing the sleeping incense, he would have inevitably lost consciousness. After Miss Jing entered the room, she first closed the door. Then, she walked to the head of the bed and helped Ma Chun into a cross-legged sitting position. Then, she took out a small jade bottle, which was half filled with a pale green liquid that looked like fruit juice. Miss Jing opened the jade bottle and dripped the light green juice into Ma Chun's mouth. Then, she aimed the bottle at Xiaolingyu's mouth. It seemed she was going to drip some green juice on Xiaolingyu as well. Xiaolingyu didn't know what the green liquid was, so he naturally wouldn't allow it to enter his mouth. He immediately reached out and grabbed Miss Jing's wrist. "What are you doing?" Xiaolingyu sat up straight and narrowed his eyes. "Do you think I'll harm you?" As Miss Jing spoke, the bracelet on her wrist suddenly flashed with white light and bounced Xiaolingyu's hand away. One shouldn't have the heart to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. "I'm not related to you, so I naturally have to be careful," Xiaolingyu said with a smile. "You're too careful. I concocted this just to save you, not to harm you." Miss Jing put away the jade bottle. "But since you're not drunk, there's no need to waste it. You really have a lot of good stuff on you." Xiaolingyu smiled and said, "It's a bit unfair for you to be in a small mercenary group." "Unfair? I don't think so at all. Instead, I feel very happy. Hunting with them, carrying out missions with them, watching them laugh and worry, feeling the warmth and harmony of the group. To me, this is a rare kind of peace and happiness." Miss Jing shook her head. She left the bed and walked out the door. As they reached the entrance, Miss Jing suddenly stopped. She turned and said, "That fat man definitely won't give up. The one he brought to the honored guest tower is a divine lord powerhouse. I estimate that he will attack us. The reason he had the fat man compete with you in drinking was in truth to probe your depths. He didn't have any intention of targeting you." Xiaolingyu had already thought of this. He smiled and said, "Should I directly make that fatty drunk during the drinking competition and then act normal? That way, the divine monarch expert will back off." Miss Jing frowned and said, "Even if they know you're a divine monarch expert, they won't back off. They'll find someone stronger or even more divine monarchs." Xiaolingyu pretended to be relaxed. "It seems that if I deliberately get drunk, they'll look down on me." Miss Jing nodded and said, "I know you're very careful and don't want to cause trouble, but please don't leave now. It's best if you can help us deal with this divine monarch expert first." Chapter 549. They've already treated you as a member of our team. Even if you leave, they won't let you go, Miss Jing said. Right now, they're just a monarch god. They can't do anything to me. At most, I'll just have to leave Duu City. I didn't come here for anything important anyway. Xiaolingyu replied casually. What if we beg you? Miss Jing asked, unwilling to give up. It's useless. You can treat me as a selfish person, Xiaolingyu replied with a wave of his hand. If it was just a monarch god, Xiaolingyu could consider it if it was just to deal with that damn fatty. However, the other party clearly had more power than that. What if we hire you? Miss Jing still refused to give up. I'm afraid you can't take out enough divine stones to hire a monarch god, right? Xiaolingyu asked with a smile. What if we can take it out? Miss Jing asked. Then I won't risk my life. If I want to earn divine stones, I don't have to fight a monarch god, Xiaolingyu said without hesitation. Xiong Meng and the others definitely didn't have many divine stones on them. If their team could take out enough divine stones to hire a monarch god, it would definitely be because of Miss Jing's generosity. This also gave Xiaolingyu reason to suspect that Miss Jing might be the daughter of a powerful faction and that she came out to travel. With Jiang Lanyu as an example, Xiaolingyu didn't want to have too much contact with the disciples of powerful factions. He didn't want to bump into them again. It was also because of Miss Jing's existence that Xiaolingyu decided to leave the team early. Moreover, he could leave with peace of mind. If this team didn't have Miss Jing, he might consider whether or not to help these people out of their predicament. When Miss Jing heard Xiaolingyu's words, she originally wanted to say something, but after hesitating, she directly left the room and closed the door behind her. After Miss Jing left, Xiaolingyu immediately checked Ma Chun's body. After a moment, his expression relaxed. The light green liquid was indeed used to save him. At this time, it was also slowly breaking down the alcohol in Ma Chun's body and turning it into pure divine power. 2 days later, Ma Chun Kai completely refined the alcohol and woke up. There was no one else here, so Shaolin Yu did not need to continue pretending. He did not lie on the bed, but sat cross-legged on the bed to meditate. Not long after Ma Chun woke up, Xiong Meng and the others woke up one after another. Judging from their expressions, they didn't seem to know that they had been drugged or what Miss Jing had done to them. Shaolin Yu naturally wouldn't point it out. After exiting the shop, everyone walked towards a crossroad. Shaolin Yu wanted to bid farewell to Xiong Meng and the others, but before he reached the end of the street, Miss Jing sent him a voice transmission. "I see that Brother Xiao is all alone in the God realm. If Brother Xiao is willing to help us this time, I can recommend you to a big family in the God realm. Once you join that family, Brother Xiao's future will be bright." Shaolin Yu asked curiously, "Which big family is it?" Miss Jing sent him a voice transmission without batting an eyelid. "Family Jiang." Shaolin Yu frowned and asked again, "Which family Jiang?" Miss Jing said, "In the God realm, there is only one family Jiang that can be called a big family Jiang. It's the 8 great families of the God realm." Shaolin Yu's originally relaxed footsteps immediately paused, and even his expression couldn't hide the change. "With my recommendation, I can guarantee that Brother Xiao will become a member of the family Jiang. From then on, you will enjoy endless cultivation resources and receive guidance from many true experts of the God realm." Miss Jing saw the change in Shaolin Yu's expression and felt that Shaolin Yu was tempted. "You're a member of the family Jiang?" Shaolin Yu asked after regaining his composure. "No, but my recommendation is absolutely useful. Please don't doubt it." Miss Jing replied. "Then can you tell me where the family Jiang is first?" Shaolin Yu continued to ask. Miss Jing thought that Shaolin Yu doubted whether her words were true. She didn't hesitate and said, "Many cultivators of the God realm who have reached the God King realm know that the family Jiang is in Yangon City. I can also tell you that it's not difficult to find a member of the family Jiang in any high-level city of the God realm. With my recommendation, you can easily gain their trust." Shaolin Yu couldn't help but ask, "Then what is your origin?" Miss Jing said, "I can't tell you this. Even they don't know." Shaolin Yu replied with a voice transmission, "Your background is definitely not small. Furthermore, I feel that your strength is definitely not weaker than a Sir God's. You should be able to resolve this problem yourself." Miss Jing said vaguely, "Maybe you're wrong. I'm not as powerful as you think." At this point, everyone walked to the end of the street. Just as Xiong Meng was about to choose which street to take, Shaolin Yu said to Miss Jing, "I think that since we've been getting along well these past few days, we should spend more time together." Shaolin Yu's meaning was very clear. Miss Jing naturally understood it. A touch of joy appeared on her calm face. The reason why he agreed was that Shaolin Yu wanted to have a good relationship with this mysterious Miss Jing so that he could inquire more about the family Jiang. Secondly, he was certain that Miss Jing's identity wasn't simple. If they were in danger, she might put up a shocking performance. Thirdly, although this team was small and weak, it was filled with humanity. Everyone trusted and relied on each other. The atmosphere was very good. Shaolin Yu didn't say that he wanted to leave. Naturally, no one would chase him away. Everyone chatted and laughed as they squeezed into the crowd of people. From the words of Xiong Meng and the others, it could be heard that they urgently needed several 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Last time, they had hunted down the Divine Lord Realm Tiger Ape Beast for this sum of spirit stones. But afterwards, their plans had been ruined by their employer. Now, they had to complete some more missions. Therefore, Xiong Meng and the others wandered around the stone steels at the crossroads, looking for missions suitable for them. "How about this mission? The commission is 150,000 high-grade divine stones." Zhang Hai pointed at a mission on the stone steel and asked. "Don't just look at the commission. You have to look at the difficulty of the mission. The dragon grain wood can only be found deep in the floating Su Mountain range. Moreover, there are at least divine monarch demon beasts guarding the place where the dragon grain wood grows. We're not the Skychi Iron Armor Regiment who can kill our way into the floating Su mountain range with numbers and divine monarchs. Xiong Meng slapped the back of Zhang Hai's head and said unhappily. Zhang Hai rubbed the back of his head. After a while, he pointed at another mission and said, "This one is not bad. The commission is 80,000 high-grade divine stones. This one is not bad. It's just that although the divine monarch butterfly winged Luan's attack is not strong, it is still a bird. We can't fly, so we can't deal with it." Xiong Meng said helplessly. "Isn't Senior Xiao able to fly? With Senior Zhao's help, we can at least try, right?" Zhang Hai said unconvinced. Everyone looked at Xiaoling Yu. Xiong Meng then said, "We've already troubled Senior Xiao once. It's not good to, it doesn't matter. In any case, we have nothing to do. If you need help, just give me half of the commission." Xiaoling Yu didn't wait for Xiong Meng to finish speaking and said with a seemingly generous smile. "Senior Xiao is really willing to help?" Xiong Meng asked excitedly. To be able to obtain the help of a divine monarch powerhouse was naturally of great significance to this small team. Not only would it increase their safety when carrying out missions, but it would also increase their chances of completing the mission. The last time they hunted the tiger ape beast was a very clear example. "As long as you don't think my asking price is too high." Xiaoling Yu shrugged and replied. Since Senior Xiao is willing to help, then it's settled. Senior Xiao only wants half of the commission. In fact, we are already taking a big advantage." Xiong Meng laughed heartily. If Xiaoling Yu didn't help, it would be too difficult and dangerous for Xiong Meng and the others to hunt a divine monarch monster beast. If it weren't for Miss Jing, they wouldn't have dared to have any ideas about hunting a divine monarch monster beast. Xiaoling Yu only wanted half of the commission this time. It was indeed very generous of him. Since the mission had been chosen, everyone began to prepare for it. Xiaoling Yu could be considered to have some hunting experience, but he definitely couldn't compare to Xiong Meng and the others. So, he just silently followed. In fact, the so-called preparation was just buying some special tools and materials. What made Xiaoling Yu feel strange was that the experienced hunters like Xiong Meng and the others were all following Miss Jing's instructions. Yet, Miss Jing, who looked like a delicate female cultivator, seemed to be very familiar with the butterfly-winged Luan. If Miss Jing really came from a large family or power, why would she go out hunting so often? Could it be that she liked to read related ancient books? After everything was prepared, everyone headed towards the city gates. When they were about to reach the city gates, Miss Jing sent a voice transmission to Xiaoling Yu. "Have you noticed? Someone has been following us. Although he's hidden very well and hasn't used his aura or divine sense to lock onto us, he'll always appear where we appear and glance at us from time to time." To be honest, Xiaoling Yu really didn't notice that he was being followed. After all, there were too many people on the streets. Moreover, it wasn't good to release one's consciousness in the city. After all, divine monarch powerhouses often appeared in the city, and there was even the possibility of meeting a divine monarch powerhouse. If he kept releasing his consciousness, it was very likely to attract trouble. Although he didn't notice it, Xiaoling Yu believed that Miss Jing wouldn't deceive him. So, after leaving the city, he was especially careful and slowly released his consciousness. There were many cultivators heading towards the floating Cataclysm mountain range from Mu City. After everyone left the city, they began to speed up towards the large river. Chapter 550. The bridge above the river was now reconnected, allowing countless people to cross and reach the other side of the river. Senior Xiao, you wouldn't mind taking us flying again, right? Zhang Hai said with a fawning expression. Let's cross the bridge. There's no need to trouble yourself over such a small matter, Miss Jing said before Xiaoling Yu could reply. Trouble? Zhang Hai scratched his head. Xiong Meng and the others were still unaware that their team had been targeted. They also didn't know that Xiaoling Yu shouldn't reveal her divine monarch stage cultivation. However, they definitely didn't dare to force Xiaoling Yu to take them flying. Although the bridge's structure was simple, it was very spacious and stable. Both the iron chains and the iron plates were very sturdy. Perhaps it was because Xiong Meng and the others had witnessed the bridge being cut in half by the sword beam flying from the sky, but when they were slowly crossing the river, they were always a little worried that the bridge would be cut in half again. Furthermore, they would occasionally look up worriedly, even though they had crossed this bridge countless times. After reaching the other side of the river, they didn't stop for a moment. Everyone rushed towards the floating Su mountain range at full speed. There was a flat grassland between the river and the floating Su mountain range. Without the cover of a crowd or a forest, it was very easy to be exposed. However, the cultivator following Xiaoling Yu and the others didn't seem to be afraid of being exposed. Although he was alone, he was very bold. This person's cultivation was in the late heavenly god stage, so his speed was naturally not slow. Unless Xiaoling Yu personally took Xiong Meng and the others, they wouldn't be able to shake off this person's tracking. However, if Xiaoling Yu took them with her, she would expose her cultivation level. They could only let this person follow them. After all, they had accepted the mission in Duhu City. After completing the mission, they still had to return. If Xiaoling Yu exposed her true cultivation level, they might be able to avoid trouble temporarily. However, when they returned to Duhu City, they might encounter even greater trouble. Why is that guy following us? Xiong Meng finally asked in confusion. He probably thinks that we're the vanguard. He came out alone and wants to go to the floating Su mountain range. However, he feels that it's not safe to go alone, so he's following us, Zhang Hai guessed. Why isn't he deliberately following us? Ma Chun asked. Please, why are you so obvious when you're following others? Zhang Hai retorted. Ma Chun paused for a moment before saying, if we're following them, it's indeed too obvious. After that, no one doubted anything and continued on their way. What should we do if the divine monarch that Fatty hired catches up and attacks us? Xiaoling Yu asked Miss Jing via voice transmission. I'll try my best to deal with him in an instant. Miss Jing replied. Even if we can kill him instantly, we'll still be the main suspects after he's killed. At that time, we'll still attract a large number of powerhouses to take revenge. Furthermore, even if we can kill that fatty and his two maidservants, many cultivators know that we have a conflict with them during the duel. As long as they investigate a little, we will still be targeted, Xiaoling Yu said with a frown. As long as I can insta-kill him, I have a way to solve this problem, Miss Jing said confidently. Can it really be solved? Xiaoling Yu obviously didn't believe it. Miss Jing didn't reply and only nodded calmly. This time, Xiaoling Yu still chose to believe this Miss Jing. He had no choice but to believe her. However, Xiaoling Yu had just reached the Divine Monarch stage not long ago. How could he insta-kill a powerhouse who had been in the Divine Monarch stage for God knows how many years? Xiaoling Yu thought about it and could only think of one way, and that was to use the sacred artifact in front of a Divine Monarch powerhouse. Ordinary cultivators couldn't see the quality of a sacred artifact. For example, Xiong Meng and the others couldn't. However, Miss Jing should be able to see through it. If she revealed that he had a sacred artifact to the big family or faction behind her, Xiaoling Yu would be in even more danger. He had to consider this point. If he didn't use the sacred artifact, Xiaoling Yu could only fight a divine monarch and ensure that he wouldn't lose. However, it wouldn't be easy for him to win. Unless the opponent was careless, seriously injured, or in a special situation where they couldn't resist, he wouldn't be able to insta-kill a divine monarch. The cultivator behind them only followed them for a few days before quietly retreating. Just as Xiaoling Yu was wondering why the other party suddenly gave up, Miss Jing transmitted a message. A divine monarch powerhouse is using his divine sense to lock onto us. Xiaoling Yu frowned slightly because he didn't feel that divine sense. This proved that the other party's cultivation was much higher than his. Conservatively speaking, the other party should be in the middle stage of the divine monarch stage. This made Xiaoling Yu's heart sink. Insta-killing an early-stage divine monarch was already difficult for Xiaoling Yu. the other party was in the middle stage divine monarch stage. Even if he used the sacred artifact, he might not be able to insta-kill the other party as he wished. That guy actually stopped following us. Zhang Hai curled his lips. I think his actions are suspicious. We'd better be careful. Although Xiong Meng's cultivation wasn't high, his vigilance wasn't bad. What made Xiaoling Yu and Miss Jing feel strange was that the divine monarch was only following them from afar. He didn't approach or attack them. A few days later, everyone arrived at the edge of the floating Cataclysm mountain range and entered the forest. He probably doesn't know that we've discovered him. He's probably waiting for an opportunity to make a move. He'll attack when we're distracted or when we're in danger. Miss Jing transmitted a message to Xiaoling Yu. We should set up a trap. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to insta-kill him. Xiaoling Yu's expression didn't change. This trap can't be too obvious. Otherwise, not only will he not fall for it, but he'll also suspect us. Miss Jing thought for a moment and said, we can't go directly to the butterfly-winged Luan. We should find an early-stage divine monarch monster that isn't good at flying. After all, we don't seem to have any divine monarchs on the surface. If we go directly to a divine monarch monster that can fly, I'm afraid he'll suspect us. When dealing with a monster that isn't good at flying, we'll have to reveal a flaw and lure him into attacking. Otherwise, if we drag this out, it'll affect our condition. Xiaoling Yu didn't have a better idea, so he replied, we'll follow Miss Jing's arrangements. In any case, a mid-stage divine monarch wouldn't be able to do anything to Xiaoling Yu. There was no need for him to be afraid. They couldn't rely on Xiong Meng and the others to find the butterfly-winged Luan, so even if Miss Jing and Xiaoling Yu changed their plan, Xiong Meng and the others wouldn't know. Everyone continued to head deeper into the floating Cataclysm mountain range, stopping to rest from time to time. For years had passed, but that divine monarch monster was still patiently following them. Moreover, he didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. Seeing that they had arrived at a place where a divine monarch monster appeared, Miss Jing transmitted a message to Xiong Meng and the others to be careful. In order to prevent them from revealing any strange expressions and arousing suspicion, she didn't tell Xiong Meng and the others that a divine monarch expert was watching them. Miss Jing also didn't know where a divine monarch monster was, but she would always stop to carefully observe the surrounding terrain, vegetation, and rocks. It seemed that she could find traces of a divine monarch monster. As expected, less than a month after entering the forest, Miss Jing warned everyone that there was a divine monarch monster nearby. Moreover, she said that it was an early-stage divine monarch fox demon. Fox demons are good at bewitching people. When the time comes, we'll pretend that we've lost our souls. That divine monarch will definitely attack. Miss Jing transmitted a message to Xiaoling Yu. If he attacks you first and not me, we'll be in danger, Xiaoling Yu said worriedly. Don't worry, he'll definitely attack you first. Because he doesn't know your background, he'll definitely be more wary of you. He'll definitely want to get rid of you first, Miss Jing said with certainty. Miss Jing's judgment wasn't wrong. After searching the area for 3 days, a white light suddenly flashed in front of Xiaoling Yu and the others. The speed of the white light was very fast, but Xiaoling Yu could see that it was a snow-white fox demon that had transformed. Xiong Meng and the others didn't see what that white light was, but they quickly became nervous and tightened their grip on their weapons. Then, the white light flashed repeatedly around them. There were also blurry afterimages that dazzled everyone. Not good, it's a divine monarch fox demon. Retreat! Miss Jing pretended to be frightened and shouted loudly. Then, the entire team began to retreat. The fox demon naturally wouldn't let Xiaoling Yu and the others escape so easily. After circling them a few times, the illusory images of beautiful women appeared before everyone's eyes. The illusory images of the women had graceful figures and were very revealing. They even made seductive gestures and laughed continuously. It was very intoxicating. It's a bewitching technique. Everyone, guard your minds. Miss Jing reminded everyone again. However, how could a Divine Monarch Fox Demon's bewitching technique be resisted by Divine Monarch cultivators? In just a few moments, Xiong Meng and the others had already lost their minds. Not only did their movements become much slower, but even their eyes gradually became blurred. Even Ma Chun and Ma Qiu, who were slightly lower in cultivation, revealed silly smiles on their faces. Although Xiong Meng's cultivation was slightly higher, he hadn't reached the Divine Monarch stage. He only lasted for a few breaths of time. Like the Ma brothers, Zhang Hai was no exception. Xiaoling Yu acted according to Miss Jing's plan and gradually pretended to lose her consciousness. Meanwhile, Miss Jing stood still and closed her eyes. If that was the case, the Divine Monarch cultivator hiding in the dark wouldn't make a move. After all, the Fox Demon would be able to get rid of Xiaoling Yu and the others. Therefore, Miss Jing had no choice but to use a spell. Countless flower petals flew out from her body and filled the surroundings in the blink of an eye. They rapidly circled around Xiaoling Yu and the others. Under the encirclement of the flower petals, the Fox Demon's bewitching technique was clearly weakened. Xiong Meng was already showing signs of waking up. Just as Miss Jing expected, the Divine Monarch cultivator made his move. He quickly rushed forward and shattered Miss Jing's flower petals defense with a slap. Then, he rushed towards Xiaoling Yu and aimed his palm at Xiaoling Yu's head. Chapter 551. Xiaoling Yu pretended to come back to his senses, but when he saw the other party's palm coming at him, he leaned back in a panic. The other party's ferocious palm hit the tip of Xiaoling Yu's nose, and a strong gust of wind blew against his face. After his palm missed, the other party quickly bent his straightened arm and used his elbow to hit Xiaoling Yu's chest. Xiaoling Yu quickly flipped his body and narrowly dodged the other party's elbow again. This fellow's reaction speed is not slow. The Thin Sir God could not help but frown after missing his opponent twice. When he straightened his arm again and swept his palm toward Xiaoling Yu, Miss Jing, who was beside him, shot out a green vine to entangle him. The Thin Sir God's arm was bound by the green vine. Although he could not attack Xiaoling Yu, he still shouted softly and the green vine shattered into green light. "Who are you? Why are you attacking me?" Xiaoling Yu did not counterattack. Instead, he quickly retreated to the side with a puzzled look. The Thin Sir God naturally would not answer his question. He only sneered and charged forward again. However, on the way forward, he had already taken out a short sword that looked like a sharp thorn. Even though he was dealing with a few juniors, this Sir God did not plan to be careless. The other party was extremely fast, and the short sword in his hand seemed to be a high-grade divine weapon. This was enough to threaten Xiaoling Yu, and he had no choice but to take out his silver moon broken blade to deal with it. The short sword stabbed over, and Xiaoling Yu met it with his silver moon broken blade. Although the short sword was blocked, the huge force that surged from it was very strong. This huge force was not enough to affect Xiaoling Yu too much. After all, Xiaoling Yu was also known for his strength. However, he could not show this characteristic of his, so he pretended to be unable to block the huge force and flew backward. Your reaction is not slow, but your strength is much weaker. After the Thin Sir God made this judgment, he increased his speed again and continued to attack Xiaoling Yu. At this time, Xiong Meng and the others had already recovered. Although they did not know what was going on, they definitely would not watch Xiaoling Yu face the enemy alone. They all waved their weapons and charged forward. Miss Jing cast a spell again and turned the surrounding space into a world of flower petals. These flower petals were also effective against Xiong Meng and the others, slowing them down a lot and preventing them from rushing toward the Sir God cultivator. This was also intentional. If Xiong Meng and the others approached, the Sir God cultivator would only need to quickly change and he would be able to deal with them. And these flower petals also had a great restrictive effect on a Divine Lord Realm cultivator. This thin Divine Lord Realm cultivator's line of sight was blocked by the flower petals. When he stabbed his short sword towards Xiaoling Yu, he was unable to lock onto him. Xiaoling Yu followed his previous discussion with Miss Jing and began to deal with the thin cultivator in the world of flower petals. Most of the time, he kept moving and dodging without counterattacking. At this time, Miss Jing sent a voice transmission to Xiong Meng and the others, telling them to quickly leave the battlefield and not approach the Sir God. Xiong Meng and the others hesitated for a moment, but in the end, they chose to listen to Miss Jing's instructions and retreated from the world of flower petals. You want to stump me with just this spell? What a joke! Scatter! The thin Sir God chased Shaolin Yu for a while. Seeing that it was not working, he finally lost his patience and roared. His body's aura rapidly surged, and in an instant, all the flower petals around him were scattered. Just as the flower petals were scattered, countless green vines wrapped around him, restricting his movements. The green vines were shattered again, but countless flower petals appeared again. Countless plants around the battlefield were uprooted and then shot at the thin Sir God like arrows. Little girl, I didn't want to kill you so early, but since you're so eager to die, don't blame me. The thin Sir God decided to get rid of Miss Jing, who was constantly casting spells. If he did not get rid of her, it would be difficult to get rid of the others. However, when the thin Sir God changed his direction and charged at Miss Jing, Shaolin Yu would block him with the Silver Moon Saber. Good timing. The thin Sir God suddenly turned around, and the short sword in his hand released a foot-long sword light that swept toward Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu felt the fierce attack and immediately exerted strength in her legs, leaping high into the air. Previously, Shaolin Yu had been looking for an opportunity to kill her opponent, but her opponent was a mid-stage Sir God. Not only did he have quick reflexes, but his movements were also extremely fast. It was difficult for Shaolin Yu to hit him, let alone kill him in one strike. Should she use a sage weapon? Shaolin Yu, who had flown high to dodge her opponent's attack, hesitated. You dare to fly in the air? You're courting death. The Sir God cultivator revealed a cruel sneer. He tapped his feet lightly on the ground and flew up as well. Many cultivators knew that the greatest advantage a Sir God cultivator had over a heavenly God cultivator was not their cultivation level, but their ability to fly and stay in the air for long periods of time. A heavenly God cultivator could not. A heavenly God cultivator could not escape the gravity of the ground and could not resist the pressure in the air. Therefore, even if they soared into the air, it was difficult for them to move nimbly. Therefore, the thin Sir God, who did not think Shaolin Yu had the strength of a Sir God, felt that it was very foolish of her to fly in the air in front of him. His opponent chased after her from below, but Shaolin Yu moved 3 feet horizontally in the air and then dropped down at an even faster speed. Something's wrong. The Divine Monarch missed once again, which made him suddenly alert. However, he didn't follow and land. Instead, he allowed his body to stop about 10 meters above the ground. Next, the thin Sir God prepared to use the advantage of being in the air to attack Shaolin Yu from above. Streaks of sword light shot down rapidly from the sky. Shaolin Yu fled in all directions under the cover of countless flower petals. Fortunately, the flower petals could block the opponent's vision and divine sense. If the opponent could lock onto her, Shaolin Yu would not be able to hold on for long and would inevitably be hit by the sword light. Shaolin Yu did not use his sacred weapon. He was waiting. He was waiting for Miss Jing to take out some trump cards. Miss Jing was also hesitating as she released her spells. It was not that she did not have a way to deal with a Sir God cultivator, but she did not want to use it so easily. She felt that Shaolin Yu definitely had a way to deal with her. Just as the two of them were hesitating and waiting, the thin Sir God cultivator in the air attacked Miss Jing again. Shaolin Yu could not reveal his Sir God level too early, so he could not fly in the air and naturally could not stop the thin Sir God cultivator. Miss Jing knew that she could not wait any longer, so she shouted to Shaolin Yu, "Brother Shao, delay him for a while. Wait for me to cast my spell." When Shaolin Yu heard this, he immediately leaped up, and the silver moon broken blade also shot out a blade light that was about 3 feet long. There's indeed a problem. Seeing Shaolin Yu's blade light and the fact that Shaolin Yu could fly quickly in the air, the thin Sir God exclaimed. He was sure that Shaolin Yu was also at the Sir God stage, so he did not dare to be careless. He immediately turned around and shot out a sword light to shatter the blade light. Xiaoling Yu did not hide his strength anymore. Not only did he fly in the air, but the wings of extreme speed also appeared behind him. With the wings of extreme speed, Xiaoling Yu's speed would not be slower than his opponent, and the silver moon broken blade would not lose to the short sword in terms of quality. Therefore, Xiaoling Yu was confident that he could fight with the thin Sir God for a while. The skinny Sir God was an extremely cautious person. His opponent was also at the Sir God level. This made him feel that it would be difficult for him to return as he wished. Therefore, he decisively decided to retreat. He did not want to continue this battle that had no outcome. However, just as the thin Sir God was about to use his strength to break free from Xiaoling Yu, a colorful halo suddenly enveloped him from the sky. Feeling the powerful power contained in the colorful halo, the thin Sir God's expression changed drastically. He knew that he could not be enveloped by the colorful halo, so he increased his speed to escape. However, at this moment, Xiaoling Yu blocked the thin Sir God's path and swept the silver moon broken blade toward the thin Sir God's neck. Get lost. The thin Sir God also waved the short sword in his hand. It was not to block the other party's broken blade, but to attack the other party's neck. If both parties did not change their moves, their attacks would land on the other party's body, resulting in a situation where both parties would be injured. Xiaoling Yu did not change his move. The thin cultivator felt a little strange. Could it be that the other party was prepared to return injury with injury or exchange a life for a life? When enemies met on a narrow path, the brave would win. The thin cultivator decided that he had to be braver, so he did not change his move. Moreover, if he changed his move, he would have to retreat or avoid the other party's attack. In this way, he might be enveloped by the halo that was rapidly descending toward him. In an instant, the short sword slashed Xiaoling Yu's neck. However, Xiaoling Yu's silver moon broken blade did not cut the other party's neck. At this moment, the thin Sir God used his other hand to grab the silver moon broken blade. Blood immediately spurted out, but only from the thin Sir God's palm. The thin Sir God's high-grade divine weapon, the short sword, seemed sharp, but it only left a shallow wound on Xiaoling Yu's neck. How is this possible? The thin Sir God was very surprised. Before he could recover his senses, the colorful halo had already enveloped him. The thin Sir God knew that danger was approaching and did not hesitate at all. The short sword in his hand slashed wildly at the colorful halo. At the same time, he took out a communication bead. "Brother Xiao, hurry up and kill him." In fact, before Miss Jing's reminder, Xiaoling Yu had already made his move. He waved the silver moon broken blade again and slashed at the thin Sir God's head. Under the cover of the colorful halo, the thin Sir God could not move his body. At this moment, he could only block with his short sword. Seeing that the silver moon broken blade was about to come into contact with the short sword, Xiaoling Yu quickly changed his move and swept the silver moon broken blade horizontally at the thin Sir God's neck. Under the restriction of the colorful halo, the thin Sir God's reaction speed was too slow. Xiaoling Yu's silver moon broken blade easily swept across his neck. The silver moon broken blade swept across. There should have been a head flying and blood splattering, but there was only a line of blood on the thin Sir God's neck. However, Xiaoling Yu was certain that the silver moon broken blade had broken the thin Sir God's neck. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.